crashing on PS5 or games keep crashing.
What's your name? What's your name? Zabo? Ooh, that's different. What's your name? What's your name? Zabo? Ooh, that's different.
Nephew.
Hey. Everybody, this is Big Jeff and Shanita
It's Shanita.
on No Days Off Productions with the #1 show in the land. Nothing
But the truth.
All right. Today I was going to address a lot of speculations, on behalf of me, my family, and a lot of other situations. So, but we're going to discuss that at a later factor. Right now, we have a special guest that asked to come and give input and insight on a lot of things that's going on in this world today. Mm-hmm. So we want to send you sit right.
Okay.
And he also wants to let you guys know that he is running for Congress, and I'm sure he'll give you guys more detail on that. And we're happy to have him here on the show. As you guys know, when we have a guest on the show, it's their day to host. So we're going to get to it. Mr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
Good to meet you, sir.
Good to meet you.
I'm Shanita.
So we're gonna bring to the floor the Honorable Mr. Victor Hill,
Woo-hoo.
Mr. Clayton County himself. Hey, this is a man who I met, and lo and behold, everything that I heard about this gentleman, on a narrative was, he was a zero tolerance player like I am, and once I met him personally, I understood. You know what I mean? I understood. I met Mr. Hill back in what? When you was came to Blue Ivy to do your campaign. That was in like 2017, 18, wasn't it?
Yes.
Something like that.
Might
You and Sheriff Lawfare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to hear about a man and then meet the man is somewhat remind me of me. How people see me one way and hear me one way, and once they meet me, they see that it's totally different. Mm-hmm. It's totally different. And for those of you who all have not been in a power situation, you have to understand your position, in certain situations, especially when it's a power situation, to where, if you want things done right and you want things upkept in a wholesome way, sometimes you have to go in with a zero tolerance, according to situation. So Mr. Hill was in a situation that required him to have a zero tolerance. You know what I'm saying? Working in a prison system, working in the judicial system in a whole, sometimes you have to be a zero tolerance person. But you have to be a lenient person as well. And sometimes we as people can take that the wrong way, to where we will feel like the person is doing something wrong when it's really right. It's really something that needs to be done, and it needs to be done that way. Now look at the Fulton County situation, where they have a shakedown every 6 or 7 months, and they still coming up with thousands of weapons. And it's due to poor sheriffing. And we just gonna call a spade a spade. It's due to poor sheriffing, because your people are supposed to be like you in situations of authority. It shouldn't be to where a sheriff has to be at the office all day, every day, to make sure that his people does their job. He should be able to take a vacation. He should be able to go home and rest easily. He should be able to live his life outside of the jail just as much as he does inside of the jail. because his people are just like him. They're going to run a tight ship. They're going to do what has to be done, and they're going to handle situations accordingly. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Hill, and matter of fact, he's also running for Congress now. So I'm gonna let him have the flow, cause like I say, when you come to this show, you are the host. So I want everybody to welcome Mr. Victor Hill.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
Always.
It really is.
Always.
You know, you covered probably about 75% of what I wanted to say, and I appreciate that. That was a great introduction. You know, one thing I want to bring up that you introduced so well is before I was a sheriff, I was a homicide detective.
Okay.
And I spent a decade in homicide and a decade as a hostage negotiator as well too. And when I first got trained on how to solve homicides, I'll never forget, I went to the school and they said, look, we can't teach you psychological profiling. There's two types of profiling. There's a profile where you kind of look for people on the street, which we know is up in debate. But then there's a way to profile crime scenes. And you can figure out from the leads who the person is. But here's what I'll never forget. He said, the one thing I can tell you is when you go on a crime scene, if it's a whodunit and you don't know who did it, I can tell you how you can tell the race right away. He said, whatever the race is of the person that's dead, that's going to be the race. A 95% chance that that's the same race that killed them. Because people kill within their own race.
Yeah, that's right.
Asians kill Asians, white
That's
people
right.
kill white people, black people kill. Now, it does go outside. Well, one year, I'll never forget, we had 37 homicides in Clayton County. 36.
Hold on a second. They're saying they can't hear you.
Okay.
The guest.
36 of the people who got killed were African American. One was white. The one white man that was killed by another white person, and the other 37 was black on black. So, you know, when we say black on black crime, we got to understand that people tend to kill within their own race.
That's it.
So the reason I bring that up is this. You know, a lot of times when you're in charge of law enforcement and you crack down hard, there's this perception that you're cracking down hard on black males. But you got to understand that I'm protecting black males from black males. Yeah. And that's why I have to crack down. So I'm protecting our grandmothers, our sisters, our sons from getting raped, robbed, and murdered. That's just how it is. Crime happens intraracially in the community. So it's not so much that you're targeting your own people. You're trying to keep your own people safe from the predators that's within your community. So that's an important concept that you brought up, and that's why it was so important to be strict, because that's the community I was trying to protect. And of course, contrary to popular belief, it was a predominantly black community, and they appreciated it, and that's why they elected me overwhelmingly 4 times, and would have elected me again if it wasn't for my political adversaries using lawfare tactics in order to get me out so they could get another guy in. So I think that's very, very important to say, and very, very important to bring up, and I'm glad that you brought that up. You know, one thing, I appreciate you saying I'm the host, but it's one thing that I was so excited about being on the show about was because you and I, you know, you got a family member that's experienced the same thing that I've experienced.
Certainly, few family members.
Exactly, exactly. And see, the reason I'm going to Congress, I'm always going to be a crime fighter. I'm always going to fight crime. If I'm going to be the congressman in the 5th Congressional District, I'm going to make sure the 5th Congressional District is safe. And I think everybody agrees that the leadership in that district doesn't make anybody feel safe. And that's the difference. So I'm not going to have that type of authority and not bring what's needed in that district. Because if you look at all the congressional districts in Georgia, the most crime, the most homelessness, the most mental illness, all those problems are concentrated right there, gun violence and everything else. But there's another type of crime that has to be fought. And that crime is a crime of lawfare. So anytime you see prosecutors target people, be it politicians, be it celebrities like your son, be it anybody for a particular reason because they want to prosecute that person in order to change a political campaign or to make a name for themselves, that's wrong. That's not what the judicial system is for.
Yeah.
Now, I've locked up a lot of people in my career, but one thing you've never heard is they may not have liked being locked up. They may not have liked the fact that they got caught, but no one has ever said I made up a crime on them.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
You know, it's one thing to catch a person robbing. It's one thing to catch a person stealing. It's another thing to create a crime with a grand jury just so you could say you indicted a particular person. That's just as bad as the police planting evidence on someone. I
Right,
pull
right.
over the car and I put a gun in your car. I
Exactly.
put the drugs in your car just to say, hey, I made an arrest. That's wrong. And when prosecutors lie to grand juries, when prosecutors stack up charges and make up things that's not there, like what we see being abused a lot is RICO.
Yes.
And RICO was designed for the mob. Now, before what you experienced with your family, I actually experienced that. You know, before they came up with this restraint care case, the district attorney in my county, back in 2012, when she found out I was running for re-election, put together a special purpose grand jury, and next thing I look, I got a 27 count RICO indictment.
Really?
Right. So this is not the first time they came at that. And the same people who did it that time is the same people who came back this time, but this time they took it to the DOJ to take it out of the county and say, okay, let's see if we can convict him on something federally instead of whatever.
Okay.
If you look, it's the same players, the same
That's
DA's
right.
office, the
That's
same
right.
chief investigator, Dennis Baker, that same crowd. But what was interesting about that RICO indictment was a lot of people didn't know what it entailed. So, you know, everyone's thinking I'm the John Gotti of Clayton County and everything like that. But actually, they designed the fact, they said that I stole my police car 5 times, the same car, when I was the Clayton County Sheriff before I came back to run for re-election. And that every time I put gas in that car, it's a predicate crime. So they put it under RICO, made it all felonies, and said by doing that, he's running a criminal enterprise.
Are you serious?
I kid you not. And ultimately, I won the election, and I was acquitted of it. And of course, that left a bad taste in the Clayton County DA's mouth, as it should be. One should
Because
state
you know, I
it.
asked you about that.
Exactly.
I was
Exactly.
like, hey, man, how you run for sheriff and you were going through something? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So,
And the reason
you
I
know.
kept running is because I was innocent, and it was what we refer to today as lawfare.
Okay.
And we've seen it being done all across the country. And I bring that up to say this. It's not something that just happened to celebrities,
Yeah,
like what happened in your family or politicians.
yeah,
A lot of people get targeted with that every day.
okay.
And we don't hear about it because they may not have the name. You know, they may not
That's
be
right.
They don't have the name
They
of
don't
whatever.
have that
It
status.
happens every day.
Yeah.
And how is it perpetrated? It's perpetrated through grand juries. And grand juries, you know, we're the last country that's truly using grand juries.
Really?
Right. The only other country that's using grand juries right now is Liberia, and they rarely use it.
What?
The
Really?
United Kingdom abolished it in the 1930s. Everybody's pretty much abolished grand juries, and even a couple of states in this country have abolished it, but we still have it on a federal level and a local level. Well, a grand jury is the same thing as a star chamber. Because think about it, all a district attorney has to do, you can't be there, your attorney can't be there,
That's right.
you can't mount an offense. So they can go in there and tell this
Tell
grand
them
jury
anything.
Whatever they want.
Whatever
they
they
want
want
to.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have no control or no
Exactly.
say-so over that.
And then next thing you look, now you're dealing with a charge. Well, most people don't have the will or the money to fight it, so
Exactly.
now they got a plea gun
Yeah,
stuck to their head.
that's right. That's
Right. And a lot of people, they take pleas not necessarily because they're guilty, but because they're trying, hey, I
have no
want to
other
make
choice.
this nightmare end or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right.
Right.
So that should be a crime. First of all, if you and I go in a grand jury and we lie to a grand jury, it's perjury.
That's right.
But you got prosecutors lying to grand juries just to get a conviction, like they lied to a federal grand jury just to get me indicted. We can talk about that in a second.
Okay.
And not only that, they go to grand juries and they stack the charges. And they put charges that don't even fit the element of the crime. Like we got a case in Clayton County where some coaches was coaching a young lady, and unfortunately she collapsed and lost her life.
Okay.
Where the DA
remember
goes
that,
and
yeah.
indict them for murder. Now that's not murder. Murder means you planned
Planned it.
to kill
Yes,
somebody.
right.
Right. At best, it's involuntary manslaughter, but they can actually go and put charges on people that don't even fit the element of the crime. And then they claim that, well, it's a strategy so we can get them to plead
to something.
to
Yeah.
something that,
Yeah.
that is probably all they're guilty of anyway. And that's not
Yeah.
what a plea is supposed to be. It's supposed to be down from what that was if the circumstances are right and there's an agreement there. So the one thing that I want to address in Congress is, and I've already got a sample of it on my social media, and that would be a grand jury reform bill and a plea deal reform bill.
Okay.
And what that would do is
That would
bring
be good.
transparency and openness back to the grand jury. So if
Yeah.
all of a sudden a DA decides she want to bring RICO charges on somebody, well, guess what? You get to be there. Your attorney
That's
gets
right.
to be there. You get
Now
to
it's a
hear
fair-
everything.
Now it's a fair fight.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And you get to rebut it. And if we do that, not only will you see that most of these cases won't even make it
Make
that
it out
far.
of there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you can concentrate on some real crime and
Some
some
real
real
stuff.
legitimate
Right.
charges.
That's right.
It'll also reduce the jail population, or also reduce
right.
all the clogging of the criminal justice system. And then, what do? When you do that, you save not millions, but billions of dollars. Billions of dollars we could use to
Do something.
eliminate homelessness
Righteous, yeah.
and to redo what happened with that Mental Health Act signed back in 1963, which ended up closing most of the mental health asylums. And now they have nowhere to go
Where to
when they're
go.
forced
Nowhere to
they're
go.
homeless. Or they're allowed to roam free and unfortunately hurt themselves or hurt other people.
Yeah. That's it.
So that's the direction we want to go. Am I going to continue to fight crime on the street? Of course I am.
Yeah.
But those type of prosecutors, as you know, they're criminals too.
They criminals too.
And
Of
they need
course.
to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I sat and watched 36 months of it.
Yes.
You understand? Every
Yes.
day I learned, I can say this gracefully. With what we just went through, and I'm not just speaking on my family and my sons that was involved. I'm speaking on every one of these young men that was in this indictment.
Yeah.
It really made me feel ashamed to sit there and watch, like you say, someone who has trumped up a lie to the significance that they are actually trying to make it a legitimate story, which this is how you convince juries.
Exactly.
Whoever paints the better picture wins the case.
Whoever tells a better
Whoever
lie.
tell the better lie. So
Yeah.
now to see as many black district attorneys play a role in that, and then to turn around, man, and see not just Glenville as a judge, but I had to go to several courtrooms that my loved ones was in, and see other black judges, male and female, play along with this game. You understand what I'm saying?
It's still black on black
it's
crime.
black on black crime, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
And we're
you
the
gotta
worst
make it make
against
sense.
each other.
Absolutely.
We're the
You
worst.
gotta make it make
Absolutely.
sense.
Right.
This young lady here, she's my activist. That's Shanita.
Okay.
She's the activist of this organization, and they arrested her about a telephone.
Yeah, I went to jail about
They
a cell
actually
phone.
took her to jail about a telephone. This is what they did to us. They had us signing in on the sign-in sheet, giving them our identification to put on a box to contain it.
And this is after already signing in.
Thank you.
At the entrance
Just
of
to
the building.
go inside of an empty courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Courtroom is not monitored by the sheriff department. No, it's no monitoring in the room at all. Only thing we doing is sitting here looking at a monitor that's connected to the courtroom. I'm on the 8th floor. The case is on the 1st floor. I had a sheriff, young lady that was the sheriff. She was a captain, matter of fact. Tell me that The reason they have to take, the reason they came up with taking our identification, making us sign in, this is what the sheriff department decided to do. This is not a procedure that's in black and white. This is something they came up. What was the purpose of that? So he'll tell you. I walk out the courtroom one day. My son was having a hearing for a bond. I see one of the
Come back up to
I
the
see one of the district attorneys standing out there going through our ID. You know I had a problem with that. You understand what I'm saying? You know, to the fact of where I said, what are you doing? And I started her. Because she knew she was wrong. Then I actually witnessed other deputy sheriffs running our IDs. You know, all of this is illegal, man. You understand what I'm saying? I went to internal affairs. Big I haven't heard from nobody yet. I went to the federal building. I went to the United States District Attorney office and filed a complaint. I haven't heard from nobody yet. I went to the Senate. I went to the state capitol and put in a complaint. I haven't heard from nobody yet. And like I told Shanita and my family, I'm just showing you all that this is bigger than this. You understand? It's a lot of people playing a role in this game.
I agree.
You understand what I'm saying? So we just gotta fight. But
I agree.
the
I agree.
injustice was there, not just on behalf of those defendants, but us too,
Yeah.
as supporters.
You know, what struck me about the case was this, okay, and, you know, we ain't gotta go into
Yeah, we ain't.
details or
Definitely.
whatever like that, but let me tell you what I thought on the surface when I first heard it. Okay, if you're gonna tell me, okay, the young man had some weed, okay, well, that's not uncommon, okay? If you tell me he had some guns, well, I'm not saying we condone it, but folks feel they gotta protect themselves. I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
the right way, but okay. But when you tell me that he's responsible for the majority of the crime,
Hey man,
that's
come on.
when I stopped and looked at the TV. and I
80%.
said, okay,
80% now.
This is some bull, you know
Yeah.
what? And I was like, and then I knew, okay, I said, okay, we got another fool here that goes beyond Clayton County. And, you know, what you're seeing is what I referred to. You know, I wrote a book while I was away.
Okay.
And it's called Vigilante Sheriff, The Truth About Corrupt Prosecutors Weaponizing the Criminal Justice System.
Okay.
And I wish I could take credit. It was the guys that I was in there with. It was their idea. I dedicated the book to them because it wouldn't have happened
Good.
without
That's
them.
awesome.
That's what's up.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a syndrome, and I refer to it in the book, it's called the Robert Ford syndrome.
Okay.
And I know that DA in one of my counties suffers from it. Let me tell you what the Robert Ford syndrome is. You got to understand who Robert Ford is.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you right now, you're looking away, well, who is he, right? Well, that's the problem. Robert Ford is the man that staged a shootout with Jesse James and killed him. He actually shot
Okay.
him in the back. It wasn't a fair shootout.
Okay.
But in his mind, he felt that if he killed Jesse James, he would be somebody.
Okay.
That everything would transfer from him to him automatically.
Yeah.
And he would make a name for himself. And we see it didn't work because nobody knows who he is.
Nobody
Now,
knows who he is.
Actually, if you look at his tombstone, it's an interesting study in the Robert Ford syndrome. On his tombstone, it says, "Here lies the man that shot and killed Jesse James." Who do you know has
Who do you
another
know
person
has-
on
yeah.
their tombstone?
Yeah.
Okay, well, when you have someone with the Robert Ford syndrome and you give them prosecutorial power, excuse my pronunciation,
Sorry.
let's just say you make them a prosecutor, right? That's a dangerous
Okay.
combination because you got a person who has a grand jury and they have the ability to control the grand jury and indict whoever they want. A
Indict, yeah.
prosecutor can
Yeah.
literally indict a ham sandwich, that's true. They can walk in and indict anybody. And when they come out and they tell you, well, we didn't get an indictment, we tried, they're lying about that too. Usually
Yeah.
somebody they don't want to indict, so they go in there and they tell the grand jury don't indict them.
Okay.
So when you get those type of people and you put them in that position and they have the Robert Ford syndrome, they're attracted to high profile people like your son, Young Thug, like me, like the politicians. We've seen them go after because they feel that by going after that particular person, it's going to make them be somebody.
Somebody.
Now, they just don't go after celebrities now and politicians. They go after other people, but the other people they go after, no one knows who they are. They go after them to fill up their numbers. That way they can say,
like she did.
We indicted 3,000 people this year or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead. We about to give an example.
Like she did. What our DA name was Paul Howard. You know what I'm saying? She did that to Paul Howard.
Yeah.
That's how he winded up with that case.
Yeah.
Off of Funny Willis. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it makes sense.
Right, and then you see people like her take RICO and manipulate it like next thing you look, teachers of RICO. Next thing you look, the rappers. Oh, this is RICO. They're responsible for 80%
everything.
of the crime.
RICO,
And it's some of the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in my life. And I've been a cop almost my whole entire life.
Wow.
So, like I said, you know, it's one thing. I'm all for going after the bad guys. If you're raping, robbing, murdering, doing whatever, that's fine. But it's got to be legit. We can't plant drugs on people. We can't find a body and then, hey, we need to say we locked up somebody for it, so we're going to put this body on you. Or better yet, let's just make up a crime and make it look like this is the person that's responsible for everything and go after that particular person. That's wrong. That's perjury. That's violating constitutional rights. And these type of prosecutors are the ones, they always stand up on the soap opera about the Constitution, like, we got to protect the Constitution, and we don't care. And they full of, you know, I don't, get
full
with
of
fancy, help me, you know what I'm saying? But that was very, 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 very clear, you know, because if they just go with what that person may actually be guilty of, it's not going to be all this trumped up RICO
it ain't
stuff.
gonna be that high.
And they're responsible for 80% of the crime. And if that was the case, what was real funny about that is while he was locked up, I was thinking, okay, well, if this guy's responsible for 80% of the crime, we should see a real crime reduction.
There you go.
And folks were still shooting up the town. So
Thank
I was trying to figure out how did that
how that progressed on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, but hey man, we, you know, it is I used to tell people you got to be there to see it. You know what I'm saying? You know, and you know, like I say, when you went through what you went through, you know, I was your number one fan. You know what I'm saying? Because I know Mr. Victor Hill. You understand? As a person, as well as a law enforcement officer. And to see the things that you went through, man, let me tell you what made me feel real, you know, good about seeing your focus in your case. To see how you can walk in a courtroom against the United States of America, man, and be able to smile, dog. You understand what I'm saying? You know, to where, you know, okay, we playing the game. You feel what I'm saying? That's what I got out of your smile. Every time.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? Hey man, it is, you know,
well,
it is what it is.
You gotta be able to look the devil straight in the eye.
There you go.
Flinch, you know what I'm
And
saying?
you did it consistently. You understand? It was throughout your trial, it was never a moment where you showed defeat. You feel what I'm saying? And I had a judge, man. It reminded me of a judge. Long time ago in Fulton County. You might know him. It was Judge Levitt. We used to call him let him go Levitt. Everybody in Fulton County, if you had to go before Judge Levitt, you knew you were going home. This is just how consistent he was with letting you go home, man. Let me tell you what Judge Levitt said to me on my trial. I went before him, and he asked me how I plead. I said, I want to plead not guilty. I said, but I'll plead guilty. He said, why? I said, Cause I'm ready to go home. You know, you know what I'm saying? He said, but that's not a reason for you to plead guilty. Are you guilty of this crime? I said, no. He said, are you truthfully not guilty of this crime? I said, yes, sir, I'm truthfully not guilty of it. Because I wasn't. I was getting out of school when they put the case on me. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, Judge Levy said, I'm going to reset your case. He reset my case, man, for a week to give me time to think about it. So, you know, I'm really tripping now. You know, man, I'm ready to go home, man. You know what I'm saying? They call you, let them go Levy. I need to go home. Hey, let me tell you something, bro. I went back to court that next week. He asked me, did I change, you know, did I have a thought on changing my mind to say not guilty? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, okay, I'm going to give you an attorney. Y'all going to talk about it, and then you coming back before me. Hey, man, long story short, I went home with no charges.
That's awesome.
This is what he told me after he dismissed my charges. He said, I don't care how severe you think your case is. If you are right, you stick with your strip. You fight it to the end.
And I'm so glad to hear that, because he's right about that. But let me tell you where the problem comes in, not with him. You know, obviously he was a man of integrity. You know, you can put
very good integrity.
You can put a robe on anybody. That
That's
doesn't
right.
necessarily make them fair and impartial.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't necessarily, you know, give them the wisdom of Solomon so they can split the baby.
There you go.
And you know, and we find it true in all positions of leadership. A wise man once told me, you can take a crown and put it on a donkey, and you can sit that donkey on a throne inside the palace. And he's still an ass. He's not a king.
There you go.
Right. Exactly. So I say that to say this. He's right. But think about this. When you don't have a judge like that.
There you go.
Exactly.
Right? Imagine, like in my case in the federal court, where we find out that my judge, Judge Eleanor Ross, is friends with the DA. Her husband used to work in the DA's office at the time they brought those RICO charges against me. She's Facebook friends with a guy that ran against me and was actively running before, and find out that her and her husband have a relationship with the guy that ultimately the DA was trying to help to get in on my seat, so it was important for them to get me out.
So you
Think
fight
about
a real
that.
war.
Right, so it's rigged from the start.
Yeah.
So even
fight a
though
real war, man.
even though no one in the history of the United States was ever charged with ordering the use of the restraint chair, there was no physical violence, no nothing like that. And there was actually a former U.S. attorney that thought it was odd and got on the case pro bono. So I've never seen that before.
Really?
And right, and said that, you know, the Supreme Court has ruled that if there's no case law precedence, and there's nothing that clearly shows something as a crime, it's not even supposed to go before a jury.
Wow.
Well, when she put that motion together, we thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't when we realized who the judge was. That judge was not going to dismiss it.
Yeah.
She was going to make sure it went before a jury, hoping to get a plea.
Glenville.
And of course, when I didn't plea, the case just kept getting rigged from there. We weren't allowed to present certain evidence. Like, for instance, I think a jury should have known that it started over a political campaign. That a guy that had been in the chair 2-3 times before and was working on my opponent's campaign and had to be put in the chair again, all of a sudden say, hey, I was put in the chair because of the campaign, which he wasn't. The guy's a fool and has a known propensity for violence. Well, that's how it got started. His name is on the search warrant. Then, you know, you would think that people think from looking at the news, we got to talk about the news next.
Definitely.
Okay, right.
Definitely.
That 7 guys walked into the federal building and said, oh my God, we were in the restraint chair, help us. It's not true. They used a guy that was working on a campaign against me with my political opponent to get the search warrant. The chair had been used 630 times by my staff. They only looked for it with my name on it, where I said use the chair. Then they went and contacted these guys. Were you in the chair?
You in the chair.
Right.
Yeah.
These guys never made a complaint. Matter of fact, prior to this, there was never a civil lawsuit or any complaints about our use of the chair. And then ironically, some of these guys, some who had actually been out of jail for almost a year, all their stories suddenly match. We all urinated on ourselves. Well, if that's the case, where's the decontamination report?
Yeah.
Who was it that you told you needed to use the restroom and they said, no, you can't use the restroom?
Yeah.
And why aren't they indicted? And then all of them claimed they were injured, right? But never went to the hospital, never said anything. And the only one that we know of that you could see an injury, and he showed it in court, it was self-inflicted. He rocked himself in the chair just to get out, and guess what they did? They lit him out the chair. They treated it and lit him out, so he got his way.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, they're injured. So think about this. They actually went and solicited. They colluded with criminals to come get me.
Get a case.
Right. And then what's the result? So you're saying, hey, we got to protect criminals from this guy because he's so dangerous. Okay, well, they didn't realize that I was the ultimate protector of criminals because nobody was getting stabbed or killed in the jail.
That's
now,
right.
Now 5 people are dead that were murdered in the jail. Numerous stabbings, assaults went up inmate on inmate 200%, and went up on officers 100%. Folks started getting extorted in the jail, still law. Cash at me some money. If you don't, we're going to beat your son. And some of the video is just...
They're doing that.
Yeah, some of the video on this is horrible. And you'll see it. There's a documentary coming out that features my case. It's called American Lawfare.
Okay.
And it shows how prosecutors and stuff will work to get people indicted just for whatever political reasons or whatever, like they did in my particular case.
Wow.
But the good thing about this documentary is also shows the after effect.
Okay.
And you can actually look it up on YouTube, American Lawfare, and there's a commercial on it. And I hope that when I talk to Mr. Lance, I think he said that he feels it'll be ready in the next couple of months.
Okay.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
But when they misuse the justice system like that, it doesn't do anything to help crime. All they do is they spend millions of dollars trying to go after high-profile people and tie up the courtroom. Meanwhile, folks out here getting raped, robbed, and murdered.
Right.
And they're hoping that they got a soap opera going on TV every day where people are going to fall in love with them like they're now some new found star. And they're not. I mean, basically, all they need is just a red button nose on their face, and you realize they're a bunch of clowns.
They're a bunch of clowns, man.
So is that the reason that caused, because of your experience and what happened to you, is that the drive behind you running for Congress right now?
Not just that, but there, let me tell you this, and I wish I could take credit for this too. It was actually the guys that they researched my case, they rallied behind me. It was their idea to write
That's
the book.
good.
Right, imagine now, you gotta think about it. I'm sent to prison, I'm not sent to a camp.
Yeah.
I'm put in the most violent housing unit there is. And there's something I wanna get to about that because I wanna talk about what's called real community policing, okay? And these guys, it was their idea. It's like, they did this so you couldn't run for sheriff to eliminate you, but you can still run for Congress.
Yeah.
And I was like, you sure about that? And interestingly, while all that's going on, the president runs and wins as a convicted felon. And it's like, hey, y'all know what y'all talking about.
Exactly.
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 So, yeah. And
So let me ask you this real quick. Because if you're successful, are you, and I guess maybe you would be running against Raphael Warnock, maybe John Ossoff.
No. I'm actually running for the seat that John Lewis had.
Oh, John Lewis seat. Okay.
Exactly. And
Are you running against Nakima?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is gonna be good.
What's up?
Absolutely it is.
That's what's up.
So,
That's what's up.
knowing your experience and what you've went through in the criminal justice system, because we all know the criminal justice system is corrupt. It's very, black and brown people get over sentenced way more than white people. I mean, let's just put it on the forefront and be honest with that. What are you looking to change as far as the criminal justice reform? Like, I understand, President Trump has 34 felons. Do you think you would be able to join with him in discussing the criminal justice reform, particularly here in Georgia?
It's interesting you should say that. And remember, two of the biggest things that can reform the criminal justice system is what I talked about when I first got on grand jury reform, plea deal reform. But here's what I've told people. Think about this. We have a black woman that he appointed to be the pardon czar.
Alice Johnson.
Right, Alice Johnson. So think about this. A woman that was going to serve probably all her life in
Yep.
jail for
Yep.
a nonviolent drug offense. Also, the second in command of the BOP is a man that actually served time in the BOP.
I saw that too.
So this is what I've told everybody. I said, listen, we had an amazing opportunity, a small window,
To make real change.
because there's someone there that actually
Understands
what it's like.
to be the underdog.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Right. He's
Right.
seen this firsthand or whatever. So if we ever got a shot at changing it, that shot is now. And
It's
we need to
now.
take
That's
advantage.
right.
Now, a lot of people don't know. I was once a representative, not U.S., but Georgia State representative.
Okay.
Well, okay.
And I got elected as a Georgia State representative in 2002. And that was the year the state turned red for the first time in 100 years. We had a Republican governor for the first time in 100 years, Sonny Perdue. The Senate turned Republican and everything. And what did I do? Did I go around and just argue with the governor and blame him for everything in Georgia and call the Republican racist and stuff
Yeah.
like that? What I did was I sat down and figured out, okay, what can we work on? There's some
right.
things we couldn't work on, that's fine. Okay, well, we disagree, we shake hands, we ain't gotta be enemies. What can we work on? And I was able to do something that I think few freshman legislators have ever done. And I authored and passed 4 bills into law. There's actually 4 laws in Georgia that I authored and my name is on it.
Really?
And right, and it's quality.
Never
law,
heard of
not be exactly. Like for instance,
We never heard of it.
for instance, it used to be that if you got arrested for child molestation, you could plead first offender. Okay. Well, I'm not saying people don't deserve second chances, but that's kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You don't accidentally molest a child.
Molest a child.
It's not
Yeah,
like-
that's different.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, I
Yeah.
used to smoke weed in high school
Yeah.
or I fell on hard times and shoplift. This is a whole different thing.
Exactly.
Well, what they would do is plead first offender so no one can see it on their record and get a job at a school, a daycare center, or whatever. And then we were finding that they were molesting again and that these kids, that could be stopped. That law was a law that was able to get passed with bipartisan
That's awesome.
support rather. So there's some things that should just be bipartisan anyway. We should all agree that about crime. Nobody wants their kids to get shot in school.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear their son got killed in at a party or whatever like that. So I don't see what we arguing about. If we're gonna crack down on that.
That's why-
Nobody wants their kids molested. So listen,
Yeah.
what are the things we all agree on that's bipartisan? That whether you white, black, Jew,
Right.
Gentile,
Exactly.
tall, short, whatever. Hey, we can all come together.
Yeah.
And I think it's the fairness and the disparity. Like, for instance, if you're on probation and you catch a new charge, you automatically go back, revoke. Your probation is automatically revoked. That's something that should definitely be changed and addressed because you're not proven guilty of that. Even, like, say, for instance, you could be accused of something that you really honestly didn't do. And because you're on probation, they automatically revoke it.
Right, they haven't given you a chance. to
Right.
process,
Chance,
right.
yeah.
Well, here's another thing that we need to think about that we got to change too. Okay, let's just say you are a convicted felon and you were rightfully convicted.
Right.
Well, we're giving people life sentences and we don't realize it.
For 1 or 2 mistakes.
Right. Well, think about it. If okay, from that moment on, you can never carry a gun again, or
Right.
you can't be a lawyer, or you can't be a doctor, and basically what you're doing is giving people a life sentence. If they serve that time and they paid their due to society, be it 10 years or whatever, right? They paid the debt, but then you tell them they can't do this, they can't do that, and then all of a sudden. Well, why can't they go get a job? Well, you just took half the jobs off
Exactly.
the workforce from them. So if there are guys that got the skill and they want to do it, some of the best attorneys I ever met were jailhouse lawyers.
Out of jail.
Right. And those guys, I was like, man, if you could go to law school, you would be phenomenal. Hell, if I had them on my case, I probably wouldn't have went.
I'm
You
telling
see what I'm saying?
Right.
But to say, well, you can never be a lawyer or whatever like that. So, we invite them to church and tell them the Lord's going to forgive you and whatever, but we don't forgive them. Right. But they served their time. They've done what they're supposed to do. And right. And if they're willing to say, hey, I want to go the right path, why not give them that opportunity? So that's another issue there as well, too.
Cause, and I had a problem with the gun reform. We gonna do a gun reform, reform to where we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna buy back the guns and we're gonna have you can turn the guns.
That's the most
in.
stupid thing you ever heard.
But you got a damn governor who made a law and enforced it on a bill and said you got the right to carry a firearm without a license or permit.
Let me tell you this. When folks used to come to me and talk about let's do a gun buyback, I don't think they understood what they were really doing. There was actually guys stealing guns and taking it to the gun buyback so they can get $50. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I'm not going to get arrested or whatever?
Yeah.
That's not. And see, here's another thing. Here's what we really got to concentrate on. It's so interesting you should bring this up because I actually got a reform act on that too. I'd like to introduce it. It's called the Dangerous Person Drug Prohibited Act. Okay, guns should be taken from people who are a danger to themselves or a danger to others. And that don't necessarily mean mental health. There are people with mental health issues, but they're not a danger to themselves and a danger to others. But there are certain people, and they show pre-attack indicators, and you pretty much know who you are. If you look at all these shootings we had lately, from the guy at the CDC to this lunatic at the school or whatever, all of them did and said things that it was clear something was about to happen. And if we had a better way of tracking mentally ill folks like that, the ones that are a danger to themselves and danger to others, and places to put them or to make sure that weapons are kept out of their hands or taken out of their hands when they get to that, that's what would happen.
I feel like if they want a gun, they're going to get it regardless.
Well, I'm not saying that they can't get a gun, but let me tell you this. If a person is showing that type of behavior, somebody knows it. Most of these guys, if you notice, most of these guys lived home with their parents.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
They knew they were crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So it has to be that, A, they have to be required to report it, required to make sure those weapons are secure, or turn them in. Now, I'm telling you what I know from experience. When I was sheriff, I had a woman tell me, hey, my son's crazy, he's getting ready to kill someone, and brought his rifle to me. And she said, he's going to kill someone, I don't know what to do with it. So I just put it in evidence. Well, he started coming to see me every day. I want my gun back. And I said, look, I ain't got no problem with you getting your gun back. But why don't you go and just get yourself cleared and bring me some paperwork. I understand you're not taking medication, you're not going to see anybody. Bring me some paper. I just want to make sure you're okay.
But there's not a lot of mental health resources. That's the problem.
And you know how that started, right?
How did that start?
It started back in 1963 when President Kennedy, and I'm sure he was well-meaning, he signed this Mental Health Act. And what they thought was that they could treat mental health in the community. Like you could have outpatient stuff, and they could just go there, and they thought medication would solve it. So you saw the asylums close over the years. Well, there has to be mental health places for long-term care. And sometimes for some people, permanent care. There are some people, their family can't control them. They're a danger to their family.
Right.
They have to be, and they don't need to be criminalized. They don't need to be in a jail, but they need to be a place where they're detained and monitored, given medication, given treatment. But they're just too dangerous to walk around, and they're a danger to themselves. So by closing those places, because those folks can't live with their parents or their family because they're too afraid of them, it moves them to homelessness. And now we got dangerous people walking the street. In Atlanta, they've estimated that 48% of homeless people have mental health issues.
It's way more than that.
Some are just there because of happenstance. But there is a correlation because we've moved them to homelessness because we no longer have the mental health centers where they can get long-term or permanent places to be. And that's how that happened.
But I think Andre Dickinson is doing a great job at addressing some of those issues. He's opening up lots of different programs that I've never seen before. And I feel like that's important because I feel like what happens in Atlanta trickles down to everywhere else. Because now they say Atlanta changes everything. And I truly believe that. Look at the president. He was locked up in Atlanta, So I think Atlanta is kind of like a mecca of change for the world. They follow Atlanta culture. And I think that if some of these things starts here in Atlanta, I think you will be a great candidate for Congress. Yeah, and
that goes back to him saying we all got to come together
and help him get elected. Exactly. And especially someone that's been there. I've been incarcerated before, so to experience that, even if it was for a day. You dressing out, you there, you look up at the ceiling, there's blood everywhere, so unsanitary. So and to have you running for an important office like that, and you've experienced what our boys experience, what that's what would be awesome.
Know what their experience of the game.
Come closer to the
He's
mic.
been on both sides of the fence.
Right.
Now, to where he see, you know what I'm saying? But at the before he became a activist of both sides of the fence,
Right.
he already still had a mindset that this is what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? As far as being trumped up on the case,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? As far as someone loved one being unfairly, justified, you understand? So he went, to me, with what he went through, he was already prepared for it. Because, as a sheriff, you actually living this criminal behavior too now. You know what I'm saying? As well as you trying to make justice with it.
Mm-hmm.
To walk in a jail, man, mindset. To walk in a jail, man, of 2,000, 2,500, the jail don't supposed to over 1,500, but it's overcrowded by 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And to deal with all these different mentalities, all
Right.
these different characters. That's a mindset within itself.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? To where it make you wonder, a person with common sense. It'll
Right.
make you wonder
How
the hell
much
they
mental,
tolerate it?
right? How does
Yeah.
that mentally affect them? They don't give them counseling while they're there. And let's not talk about the incarceration during COVID. Nobody got nothing. You gonna go crazy, and then you let them out. They can't get a good job. You expect them to behave normally. You know what I'm saying? So
And as the sheriff, you got to go along with this.
yeah,
You got, even though you're against it, you still have to be made to look like you part of it. You feel what I'm saying? And from what you have said, I can see now that everybody had the wrong narrative as to why you did certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys, you would say, well, when Vic walk in the door, you have to turn and face the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But have anybody ever said,
Why?
thank you? You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about that for a second. Okay. So you've been incarcerated, so you know what jails are like.
absolutely.
You were,
I've been incarcerated voluntarily before. I did a lot of civil disobedient protests,
Right,
and I've
right.
also been involuntarily.
Got you. But here's what people gotta understand. It's a very, very dangerous environment. You've got everybody concentrated. So if you've had 300 murders in your county, they're in there. You got 300 murderers here. You got 200 robbers. You got whatever like that. But there's a lot that goes on. So it was a safety thing, and it really started for safety for the females. Inmates, they masturbate in front of females, expose themselves to females, eyeball them in disrespectful ways, say certain things. So it was a safety thing. They have to turn and face when females go, and then we realize, hey, this works. It needs to go for all officers, all female civilians, everybody. So they made it sound like it was just something happened when I came in there. Actually, if any commander, any nurse that came in, they had to stop and
That
face the
happened
wall.
like that. Okay.
In order to see you, in order to attack you, I need to be able to see you.
Yeah.
So that takes it away. It takes the intimidation. Their hands had to be behind their back. Why? So we can see what's in their hands.
What's
Their
in
hands
your
kill.
hands.
So we know whether there's a shank there or not.
Okay.
And if
So
they
all of it is a precaution.
So
exactly.
it just
And
rules.
It's just
rules.
It's just rules, and it worked. We
But you
didn't
don't
have
believe that
5
it was an
murders.
abuse of power.
Absolutely not. Did 5 people get killed like they've done since
But see that-
since
the
I've been
abuse of
gone?
power
Okay.
come from
Did we have all the
somebody on
stabbings?
top.
Did we have all the drugs in there or whatever like that? We had command and control. And then some things become urban legend. You'd be surprised how many young men I run into. And actually, remember, I got here late because of the wrong address. We're not blaming nobody for that, right? But actually, when I walked in, I ran into a young man that said, "Hey, I want to talk to you a second. I was in your jail." And he said, "Hey, I don't care what they said. I appreciate it." I had another young man.
It was meant for you to go there.
Probably so. He and I took a picture. This happened about a month ago, and he asked me about the toilet tissue. You know, there was this thing about we're folding the toilet tissue V for Victor. What's the real story behind that?
Yeah.
Okay. We ran into jail military style. Beds have to be made. Everything have to be in order.
Right.
If people pay attention, any hotel you go in, there's a triangle fold.
That's right.
A rapper was in my jail, an underground rapper. He didn't make it big like Young Thug.
Okay.
He goes out and he makes this rap song about folding V for Victor.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. We joked about it. Someone said, "Okay, we gonna fold it," and that's what it happened. It's not even true. It's the same fold you see at a hotel wherever you go. And I don't think no one says, "Okay, that's V for Victor." I've had some people get out of my jail and go to a hotel and then send me something later and say, "Hey, I see they doing the same thing, but it's a joke." You know what I'm saying? But that's how things get out.
We got a
there.
viewer say, "Ain't nobody meant to go to jail, Unc."
Exactly. So you know, that's how things get out there. But everything, there's a logical reason for it. And you know, people see things and they don't know, and they don't know the why. They know the what, but they don't know the why. And there's nothing nobody can ask me. Right. There's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing that I've done throughout my career that if you ask why, what, I could give you the why, and it worked. The crime was low. The jail was under control. I mean, now, if we want to talk about drugs, somebody's making a whole lot of money off the Clayton County Jail.
That's crazy.
Because they got a whole lot of drugs in there now.
It's crazy.
Right, and I wonder.
Yeah, they
who is
do.
it?
They do.
Right, who is that kid?
I think they all
I'm
do.
sure he was happy I was gone because he immediately started selling because he see who's ever there now has no control or don't have the ability to stop it or
That's
either
crazy.
they're not afraid of him. I don't know what it is. But it wasn't hard how I stopped the drugs.
I think that's at every prison now in Georgia. I think that they're put in jail. They're putting drugs in the jails.
But the Clayton County Jail did not have drugs there when I was
When you were there.
Right.
Let me read this comment real quick. I have a comment from Miss B that says, Nakima has been very quiet and she doesn't return emails. Several people have emailed her regarding all the deed theft that's going around in the state of Georgia, and that is at a very high rampage.
The what type of theft?
Deed theft, where they're going down to the courthouse filing false paperwork, they're trying to take your house. Yeah, that is very bad right now.
Well, let me say this. Let me point to that, and it's real important I bring this up. You know, I don't really know who she is, so I don't really. This race has nothing to do with her.
With hers.
I think I may have spoken to her on the phone one time, but as far as I really have no idea who she is or don't know anything about her, and that's probably because how she got in office because. Basically, she got appointed to the position and basically appointed herself because she had a position with the Democratic Party. No insult to her, but I really don't know anything about her, and it has nothing to do with her. I'm running for a specific
yourself,
reason, to deal with lawfare, to deal with whatever. But from what I've observed, because now I have to observe her, okay, we know she's not a crime fighter. The 5th District needs a crime fighter because that's where all the crime is at.
Right.
Okay, and again, like I said earlier, you know, we've got to get past this. You know, what can we get done? I mean, we could sit there and insult the Republicans and insult the president all we want.
No,
Whether
we
you
don't,
right
we
or-
don't do that here.
It's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah, we don't
Let me
do
tell
that.
you, I was a hostage negotiator for a decade, and I can tell you this right now: I've never negotiated anything by insulting the guy that I'm trying to talk out. I've never negotiated anything by insulting his support group, his family, because they don't want SWAT going on. They want him to come out successfully. So by me telling them, well, how can you support this guy? He's this and that. That's not how you invite people to church.
No.
Right.
Well,
So-
we
and that's
want to
probably
say
why
this.
it's
We're not
right.
Trump bashers here, so
Right.
No,
yeah, we don't. We
Okay,
definitely
okay,
don't
yeah,
do that.
Yeah, good. Because at the end of the day, we've got to work together and find common ground.
Respect the office.
Right. Nothing. And there's nothing that can get done. There's no legislation that can get done without bipartisan report.
Exactly.
Support. At the end of the day, when I was at the state house, guess what? The Senate was Republican. If they didn't pass the bill, it wasn't going to go to the governor. If the governor didn't sign it, nothing was going to happen. So that's true up in the United States Congress. So, and how are you going to get people to work with you when you're constantly calling them names and constantly
Exactly.
doing all of that? That's not what you do. And I'll say this, and a lot of people may not like this, but the truth is the truth. When I was a hostage negotiator, I went to a lot of schools. I went to this advanced hostage negotiation school, and the instructor gave us a list of books to read. You know, books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Books how to do it. But guess what one of the books was?
What's that?
The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the Deal.
I kid you not.
And how to
This-
negotiate
This
deals.
is a book, right? And I think we know who wrote the book. But how are we gonna get something done if we really want
Right.
to stop this mass incarceration?
Well, that's the same thing with
If-
Puffy. You
Right.
you want the president to pardon you, but yet he was actually considering it, and then he finds something where you bashed him. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't understand. You know, I believe I find it hard to believe that, and I don't think it's true because I was the sheriff of a predominantly Democratic county and predominantly black county, and they elected me overwhelmingly, and they know I don't play with crime, and they know I don't play with criminals, and that's why they elected me. And I believe the people in the 5th congressional district, they want to see a reduction in crime. They want to see something get done. They want to see this grand jury reform or whatever. And I don't think that they believe, well, we're only going to vote for you if you just bash Republicans and bash the president. I think they actually want to see something of substance done. And that's not getting done like that.
Because I said this in one of our shows, right? During the time of us going through what we went through, and I used that a lot because, like I said, I learned a lot from that on a whole lot of different scales. And I said this to where, law-wise, like you said, you trying to get, you working to try to get reforms, the old reforms out the system. And that takes me back to me saying, we would go dismember a damn statue, take it out the street, take it out of society, period. We'll burn the damn flag up. We'll say you can't use this flag no more, this, that, and the other. But we still make the people live the law. You know, I'm speaking on, you know what I'm speaking on. I'm speaking on Confederacy.
Right. I know
We
exactly
don't
what you're
get
talking
rid
about.
of Confederacy.
Right.
The statue, the flag don't mean nothing to me. What about these Confederacy laws we still living up on?
That's
Exactly.
a very good point. You know, I was in the legislature when the flag issue was up, and it was amazing to me because there was a lot of issues with some serious stuff going on, but everybody was down at the Capitol about the flag,
Yeah.
and I was amazed because, you know, I'm not saying it's a good flag, but I'm saying with all of the stuff that was going on, crime, low education, or whatever, everybody was focused on this flag, and then the flag is down. What changed?
What changed? There you
Right.
go.
Okay.
What changed?
Right.
You know, we still living in the Confederacy because the laws didn't change.
exactly.
We do away with the law.
Exactly, and then we got to understand this too. You know, I've always worked across both sides of the aisle, but here's something you need to hear. You know, I have friends that are Republicans, friends that are Democrats, always because you know,
Exactly.
I don't think we should separate like that.
Right.
You know, we should find common ground. But let me tell you this. Here are people, my Republican friends asked me. Okay, it was a Democratic DA that took this thing to the DOJ. They're friends in the DOJ. It was a Democratic chairman that was a part of it because he wanted my job or that particular seat. I mean, he even went as far as to write a fake letter trying to insinuate that I wrote the letter against him, and everyone knows he did, even though they let another woman take the charge for it, right? It's in the book, and you'll see it in the documentary. It was a Democratic appointed U.S. attorney that prosecuted this case. It was a Democratic appointed judge that did what I told you about, friends with the DA. Husband used to work at the DA's office, and they asked, okay, how could you possibly run as a Democrat when they're the ones that did what they did to you? and continue to do it to other people and stuff like that. And the only analogy that I could give them is this, you know, I got some thugs in my family, and two of them I ran out of Clayton County. One I put on a bus and sent back home. The other one I ran them back to DeKalb County. They still my family, even though one doesn't talk to me to this day. Right. We've got some folks in the Democratic Party that need to be dealt with. Just like my cousins were wrong, they're wrong, and they need to be dealt with. They need to be shipped out. And they're the reason the Democratic Party is weak and dysfunctional. They're the reason that you see this lawfare going on, and that needs to stop. And we need some strong masculine energy in the Democratic Party right now.
Absolutely.
And some common sense. And because I believe that, you can't judge the Democratic Party on some of this bad, weak leadership we got, but the everyday guy that lives in the 5th District, I believe he wants the crime low. I believe he doesn't want to get indicted by a grand jury anytime a DA wants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that he wants to walk down the street and see all the homeless gone and the mentally ill have a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
I find it hard to believe that's not the case, and we're getting ready to find out.
That's right.
Hey, man, I wish y'all would look.
But what we don't want is like a politician. What they always do, they make these promises on the political trail, getting into office, but then when they get into that office, you can't, like one of the guests said, you can't email them. They don't return emails. You can't, like Big Jeff said, he's filed these complaints on a federal level. No one has contacted him back. So,
well, I can tell you this. I don't have to promise I'll be that guy.
Right.
Just look at my history. Ask the people in Clayton County if I called them back. Ask me if I showed up. Ask the old lady who said she had a drug dealer across the house and she don't feel safe, and ask her, did I call her back or did I not show up myself and knock on the drug dealer's door and tell them to get out of my county?
uh-oh.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I even in this campaign, I've already walked areas that I know my opponents would dare not go. I've
Absolutely.
already sat down and talked with homeless people in areas that people would believe is probably too dangerous for me to be in. But I mean, I'm a street cop. That's where I'm from.
Well,
Right.
what can we do to help as far as you on your campaign trail, on your getting elected into Congress? What do you need from our views? What can we do to?
Well, let's go straight to it. Campaigns take money. No donation is too strong. It's too small. Sorry, not too well. Yeah, right. Well, it's not too strong either. You're right with that, right? But there's no donation that's too small.
Mm-hmm.
I think anybody who's a convicted felon, whether he's wrongfully convicted or rightfully convicted, has a stake in this race. But even more, his family and friends do.
Mm-hmm.
And if think about it, to have someone who's been there to be an advocate, not for you to commit crimes, but for you to be treated fairly in the court system and not do whatever. And there's 19 million so-called convicted felons in this country. If every one of them would just go to my webpage at victorhillforcongress.com, if every one of them just gave $5, that would be enough to
That
go
would
ahead
help.
and get this message out. All right. victorhillforcongress.com.
We'll make
And
sure
then-
we post that in
right.
the link of the show.
And to their wives, their girlfriends, their mothers, their children, people who want to see them be treated fairly. Because if you paid your dues, you paid your dues. It's time to move on. If they could give $5.
One of our guests said that there is some respect on your name. Believe that it's a certain level of it's a certain level of respect between certain police and the public, and that's true because it's some policemen that I love, and I'm not gonna say their name. Yeah, all police. It's some police that I love, and they're not corrupt, and they're
They just wind up being on the team with.
yeah, that it's bad apples everywhere. You got bad teachers and you got good teachers. There's bad policemen, so it's bad apples everywhere. So
Do you have just one website that people can donate to? Or
Yes, right there. It's right there. victorhillforcongress.com.
Okay.
You said 3 times.
Right. VictorHillForCongress.com, VictorHillForCongress.com, VictorHillForCongress.com. And when it comes up, you see the donate button. No donation is too small. Of course, we're not going to turn down the $3,000 donations, but if everyone comes together, we can make this happen. And I think this would be a victory, and it's going to send a strong message. Let me tell you this: there's a political class out there that they believe that they control politics. They believe that we have this clique, we have this group, and if you're not in this group, we'll decide who's going to be the next sheriff. We decide who's going to be the next congressman. We saw that in Clayton County. You know, when I ran, most sheriffs are born and raised in a particular county, and they come up in the sheriff's office and they decide, okay, the next one is you. And I was actually told by a former commissioner when I first ran for sheriff, well, we'll decide who the next sheriff's going to be. You need to stay where you're at or whatever like that.
Are you serious?
No, true story. Well, you know, I didn't come up in that clique. I was an outsider. I just decided I felt I could do a better job. I knew I could do a better job. I was like, if these guys can be the sheriff and the chief of police, well, I should be the director of the CIA or the FBI. That's just how bad it was. Yeah. So I ran and promised the folks that I would clean it up, and that's what I did. Mm-hmm. But there's this group of folks. There's some of them elected, some of them appointed, some of them in this little clique and they're groupies, and they feel that way. Kind of like how this seat I'm running for got filled. You know, when we had an iconic man die, and then all of a sudden, well, this person gets picked, a person that just happens to be the head of the state Democratic Party at that particular time. And they can't appoint themselves, so what? They put together a little committee and say, hey, appoint me.
Them
So-
polyclicks, that's
right.
what I call it, polyclicks.
Exactly. So it's not a legitimate, and we see that with a lot of folks. We see it with the DA in Clayton County, an appointment, and then next thing you look, they never ran. You know, there's written many are called, but few are chosen. They weren't chosen by the people. They were just appointed.
Put there, right, okay.
Right.
And they gotta accept it.
Exactly. And then it says, I'm not a preacher, but you know, but then that's how we get prosecutors like what you dealt with, and you know, and they feel comfortable lying to grand juries, and it is also written, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So they need to be dealt with.
You know, and I'm glad you addressed that grand jury issue because nigga can tell you, man, day one of us going to this trial.
It was unreal.
I was sitting, matter of fact, we were sitting in the hallway where the grand jury meets at.
Mm-hmm.
I said, now what kind of grand jury? Who were these people that they chose to be the grand jury, man, that actually came in here and allowed them to tell them all this crap and get an indictment?
Let me tell you how
Now,
we
see,
know it's rigged. How it's rigged. So remember this: the DA in my county wanted the feds to come at me because they were unable to get a conviction in Clayton County. They're like, oh, they're not going to convict because the people there know me and they know the story and they know that DA's office has been after me ever since I've been the sheriff because I'm not in that political clique and they got someone else that want to be the sheriff. Well, interestingly, that when I went to federal court, Clayton County is in that district, but not one person from Clayton County was in that jury pool. Right. Now, here's where it gets real interesting. So there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, they claim that, you know, well, they just get a bunch of names and whatever, but we can't trust them. They've already proved they lying to grand juries and they're using lawfare. So there's no doubt that they when they probably pick, they're probably looking, okay, well, who's Democrat, who's Republican, or whatever. Do you know that during my trial, the jury deliberated for nearly 4 days? There was a holdout juror. And the foreman of the jury kept trying to get him thrown off. And the judge brought him out before everyone, including the media, not once, but twice. Never seen it happen before. Even the 11th Circuit said they hadn't seen it before and kind of did a chastise instead of overturning the case, right?
So we went through 1,700 jurors.
Exactly. Well, but think about this. At one point, this foreman keeps sending out these notes talking about why this juror should be kicked off. The man came out and he said, hey, they're yelling at me, they're screaming at me, and what does the judge do? Send him right back in there. Well, there was one note that was very interesting to me. One note said that he believes that the president and the sheriff has immunity. What she was alluding to, that was when the president's case was up before the Supreme Court about immunity. So basically, what this foreman was trying to do is send a message, hey, this guy's a Trumpster, get him out of here. Okay, my trial should have nothing to do with partisan politics. And then, and of course, I already told you who's all involved. You got the judge who's an appointee, a Democratic appointee. Well, hell, I'm a Democrat, but at this point, I'm the outsider because they didn't ask me to run. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So imagine that. And then this guy finally breaks down and goes along with everything. But that's the type of games they play with juries.
Yeah.
And then they straight out lie to juries. And remember, you can lie by omission as well as commission. So when you don't allow me to tell the jury that this started a political campaign, when you don't disclose the fact that you're friends with my political people campaigning against me, or friends with the DA.
Exactly.
Right.
She could have recused
Right.
herself.
Exactly. And then you put up this facade, and you don't allow evidence that could clearly clear me, and then you don't bring up the fact. You make it sound like, well, we don't want the other trial coming out. Well, yeah, we do want that trial coming out. Because the same people that pushed that trial is pushing this trial. One was on the task force. He was the chief investigator and talking about I stole my police car, and now he's on the task force talking about, well, the restraint chair wasn't used. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And none of
change it
that
up.
got to the jury.
Really?
No, it did not. And they got a thing called motion in limine. So a judge is like a referee. So imagine you got a referee. We know what happens when you have a referee who wants one team to win. They're going to call the shots against the team they don't do win. And it was obvious that she wanted a conviction. And then but yet at sentencing, she all out admits this is a novel case. We've never seen one before. We've never seen it before. And she said, there's never even been a civil case like this. And usually cases, there's assaultive behavior. None of that which occurred. Well, if that's the case, why didn't you dismiss it? We put that all in motion. You see what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, well, I've been watching your social media, and appears you haven't learned your lesson. What you watch my social media for? How's that being fair and impartial? Right, and then you bring up, I see you still campaigning in the sheriff's race. Okay, well, why does that even bother you? Well, maybe because you're Facebook friends with my opponent who was still running. You know what I'm saying? So all that type of stuff never got out.
It's a lot of corruption.
It's a lot of corruption. And like I said, I think we've got a chance, an opportunity that we may never see again to fix it. Because there are people now in place who they've experienced the same thing up to and including the president. If you don't like him, if you don't like me, you don't vote for us. But you don't indict us because you want to win an election.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go to the flip side now.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout your incarceration.
Yes, sir. It gets interesting now.
We criminal.
Get to the nitty.
Yeah.
I said, okay, on an average day, what was your most delicate mindset on dealing with your situation, on dealing with being incarcerated?
Well, let me tell you what was interesting is when I first got there, I was sent to the MB unit. I write about this in the book, right? And I had no idea what I was being sent to. First of all, most politicians are sent to a camp, right? And celebrities and stuff. I wasn't sent to a camp. I was sent to a prison.
So you were treated like a real
criminal.
Absolutely. And then they put me in the worst housing unit with the most.
How long were you there? A year?
No, almost a year.
Almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year. Right.
Ooh.
So now I'm in there.
I kept up with you, baby.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, yeah. So now I'm in there and don't really realize, I had no idea. I hadn't been there before. I didn't really realize what's going on. Well, here's what's interesting. A guy came downstairs and walked in, and he said, hey, my name is ATL. And I could tell the dude had authority because everybody acted different when he walked in. And he said, I just wanted to see if it was true if you were here. And I said, yeah, it's true. He said, okay, well, we'll be talking. And he just leaves. Okay.
Were you scared?
Huh?
Were you scared?
Say it again?
Were you scared?
Everybody's scared.
Yeah,
Well,
you know.
you have that
Yeah, it's an unknown territory.
Well, now remember, I was in my jail almost every day. I ain't really a stranger.
Yeah, but
to-
you was
to
on the other
jail.
side of the side. You went
Yeah.
on that side.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there are things I'm afraid of, but it wasn't that. I'm like more afraid. Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid of reincarnation. You know what I'm saying? Right, right. Yeah,
I didn't want to be there.
but let me tell you this.
I was mad. I don't think I was scared. I was pissed.
So well, that probably you could say that maybe, but so then one day. I had a guy come and tell me, he said, hey, I got somebody that want to meet with you. Be at the library at a particular time. So, of course, this ain't a camp, so you can only move at a certain time or whatever. So I go and I meet this guy, and he's like, he said, so I get to meet the legendary Victor Hill, right? And I said, you must be from Atlanta. He said, yeah, I am. So we sit down, we have this good conversation. What people don't understand is in prison, you don't sit down and talk to people, what you here for, what are you here for? That's not even a conversation, even though folks looking up what you there for, right?
Sure live,
So-
and getting that family too.
Exactly. So we talked for a while, and one day, I mean, we ended up becoming pretty good friends, and we were talking for about 2 weeks. We would meet and talk, and he'd talk about the Atlanta experience, who we knew. And then one day, we got into a conversation about drugs. And I was talking about my philosophy on how to fight drugs. Because a lot of people don't realize I didn't really lock up a lot of drug dealers. I just stopped drug dealers from selling and moved them out the county, right? Meaning, because it took too long. All I did was just put a car in front of the house or whatever, and they couldn't sell drugs, and they left, right? They didn't like it, but hell, they didn't go to prison, you know what I'm saying?
That part.
And it stopped the situation. And he said, yeah, I agree with that. And he said something, and then he slipped and said something, and I looked at him, and I realized, okay, he's here for drugs. So it was interesting. He said he agreed, but he pretty much said something that he was a drug dealer. So I did my research, and I didn't realize it, but hell, he was probably the biggest drug dealer in Atlanta since Big Meech. Yeah. And and that's why his nickname was really Ghost. I referred to him as a chairman in the book, Big Ghost. He was probably the real life ghost of Atlanta because he was very low profile. He wasn't high profile like Meech or whatever. Okay, so I say all of that to say this. And then, of course, there was another interesting character. He was the head of the Vice Lords. One of the guys was like, I wasn't expecting things to go that well for you here. He said, cops don't do well here. Yeah. And he said, the only thing lower than a child molester here is a cop. And he said, I'm really, really amazed how well these guys are treating you or whatever. Well, I didn't know it. I thought, hey, I'm just a great guy, a politician. Well, that's really not what happened. ATL was from Atlanta. Ghost was from Atlanta, known in the book as a chairman. And basically, these guys, without me knowing it, went to bat. ATL was like, hey, I know this guy. I got family in Clayton County. They feel safe because of him. This dude is like Robin Hood. If he was a bad cop, I would tell you. Leave him alone. Right. Yeah. That the head of the Vice Lords.
Because you'd have got beat up if you was a bad cop if you were in there.
Exactly. So I think that's real community policing. They do all this wimpy, girly stuff now. Talking about I'm a community cop. I'm breastfeeding babies. I'm on TV crying. Well, I wasn't doing that. I was being hard on crime and protecting grandmothers, protecting families. And so now you got two drug lords that appreciated it and say, no, this guy is not a bad cop. My family felt safe. They lived there. And because of them, because the three of them were like kings there, everyone just left me alone. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, yeah.
So what did you experience or witness in your incarceration that you feel like needs to be I'm not gonna say sudden change, but an immediate change?
First of all, the place was filthy. There was black mold on the ceiling. The toilets were leaking. You had to spray disinfectant just to use the restroom. It was drug infested. People laugh when people say, man, I saw more drugs in jail than I see on the street. Now, that is true.
That's facts.
That's true.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
So,
definitely true.
so there were drug dealers there that were active drug dealers. Well, guess what? The drugs don't float in. How do you think it gets there? It gets there from the guards. So remember, everything is a reflection of leadership. whatever you see, I don't need to meet the warden. All I got to do is walk through the jail. I don't have to meet the chief of police or sheriff. All I got to do is drive through the county, and I already know who they are. If I see a bunch of thugs hanging in front of stores and a bunch of graffiti, and every time I look, somebody's getting shot, I already know the sheriff or the chief is weak. I don't even got to meet them. If I walk in the jail and it's drug infested and the inmates are running it, we already know. So it's a leadership problem, and that's why it's so interesting to me now that a guy that was in federal prison is now second in command, because that stuff happens because the guards are involved. The guards are bringing it in. And so if you don't have the fear and respect of the guards, and a lot of people, they criticize, well, you're not supposed to fear nobody. Yes, you are. Let me tell you this. The fear is good. The man that taught me everything I knew about crime fighting used to always tell us, he said, look, I used to be over this jurisdiction. There was a 90-year-old woman pushing a grocery cart full of money. No one ever robbed her. Why? Because they knew who money it was. Yeah. And they knew that. Yeah. And he said, and that's how we have to police these streets, so that people know this is not the place to rape, rob, and murder. Because they know it's going to be dealt with.
Right.
So there's no way to run a jail effectively. There's no way to run the streets effectively and keep crime down if there is no fear. If the bad guys don't have anybody to fear, they're going to take over. Exactly.
Okay. Now, on a criminal but legitimate law enforcement side, out of all the people you have been the overseer of, how much support did you have throughout your ordeal and trial from the people that worked for you?
Well, let me tell you this. And when I say this, okay, A, let me say two things. A, I'm not a preacher. B, I'm not comparing myself to Jesus. I just want to give an analogy, because people, you know, he's comparing himself to Jesus. Remember this: when they came and got him, everybody got ghosts. I think one followed from afar.
That's how I be.
Right, my man. And the one guy who said, "Hey, let me help him carry it," wasn't even a disciple. You know, one got scared and said, "I don't know him," or whatever. And that's how folks are. You know, you never really know who has heart and who's a gunfighter until the bullets start flying.
That part.
So I want to say this before Vic continue, and I asked him that question because I wanted to put this narrative out that from what we went through as YSL, the game, YSL, the business, this, that, and the third, I want everybody to understand that it don't just happen to the people who are supposed to be criminals. It happened to a law enforcement officer that was over a substantial amount of people as well. You know what I'm saying? One thing, you know, and I want everybody to understand, you can have 3,000 people with you that's gonna parade you every damn day. But as soon as shit get to going left,
okay,
2,099 on suddenly you standing there. All right, so I'm gonna let Vic continue.
Right. I can tell you this: the ones that were still standing there, I can count on one hand, and the thumb is not a finger, right?
I believe.
Right. Those are the real gunfighters. They was there, okay, whatever. But you know, folks' story changed. You know, folks. There were folks that were there that were putting people in the restraint chair in Russia. I didn't think he should be doing it. And then you can see the video with them putting them in the chair and making sure it's good and everything. And then all of a sudden, hey, I'm the whistleblower, whatever. It's something to see. And I've experienced it twice. And you know, all of these folks. And you know, let me put this carefully, because contrary to popular belief, I'm not a gangster. Yeah. But
you're a gangster, bitch.
Well, okay, but you know what I mean. Okay, you know what I mean. But
in your own way, though.
Right. But I'm not the head of the mob.
I want all y'all political listeners to understand.
Right.
That's a joke.
Right. But you know, everybody talks about how gangster they are or whatever. and until either a real gangster show up
There you go.
That part.
or bullets start flying, and then you'll know really. You know, I once heard a story, and I think they said it was a man. He really loved dragons. He had pictures of dragons, statues of dragons, and he would talk about dragons all the time. And they said it got back to an actual dragon, how much this man loved dragons, so he went to go see him. And when the man opened the door and saw the dragon, he had a heart attack and died. So, you know, most all these people talking this gangster stuff, they wouldn't know a gangster if one popped out the toilet and bit them on the ass, right? They just, because when something really happens, they're, oh, I'm with you, man, I'm with you. And they will run so scared. I mean,
Tell 'em about it.
if you look at the videos when I'm talking to the people in the restraint chair, both times the guy who's actually the sheriff now is standing there. Yeah, looking hard and everything like that. And he folded so fast or whatever. And now he tell me it was wrong. We gotta erase him from the history of the Clayton County, right? You know, and you realize just how weak, you know, they are. A lot of folks, they got a lot of heart when they standing next to you. Exactly. Yeah. So it is what it is. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Now, what throughout your experience of being an inmate opposed to being on the law enforcement side, what did you learn inside that you feel like could have benefited you more better as a authority figure on the outside, to where if you had known this before you winded up on the other side, you probably could have handled it on the law enforcement side on a better note?
Well, let me tell you this. Not the cleanliness, because I kept a very clean jail. But let me tell you something I saw that was very interesting there. And I can't say 100% this wasn't true at the Clayton County Jail. And I always said that, you know, I get out of here, if there's something I ever do again, I got to check it. And that's the food quality. Let me tell you what I mean by that. The food at that jail that I was at was so horrible that inmates were stealing food out of the kitchen and going and cooking. They were cooking with irons, they were cooking with all kinds of stuff like that or whatever, right? And I don't like thieves because, you know, ever since my bicycle got stolen, I've always said, the hell with thieves, you get what I'm saying? When I was 8. But there was a reason they were doing it. First of all, most of the food, some of the food was stale or outdated. It just wasn't a good, yeah. It was horrible, and you know, you even hear the Chrisleys talk about that at the camp, how horrible it was and whatever. They're not telling the truth. So these guys wanted to eat, and they came up with some creative ways to eat. I didn't know you could cook with an iron like that. Yeah, it was it was good. I tasted. I was like, I was like, good God Almighty, you know what I'm saying? But
Good God Almighty.
So the thing about it is this, you know, the food quality people deserve, whether they locked up, right, for whatever, or whether they're mentally ill, that don't mean that they shouldn't be fed properly and that place should be nasty.
Exactly.
I know for a fact my place was clean. You know, the only thing I really got to eat at the jail was Nutriloaf. Nutriloaf was something that I used to keep control and order. So anything, I don't do to people what I don't do to myself. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like this theory where if you carry a taser, you should get tased so you know what it's like or whatever. So I've ate Nutriloaf to see what it tastes like. I've actually sat in a restraint chair to see what it was like. So, you know, they lying. They weren't injured or whatever like that, especially the way we did it. But I can't say that I went down in a cafeteria and tried that food often. And if that's something, if I ever have to be in charge of a jail again, I'm gonna want to see the quality of that food because, you know, I couldn't blame them guys. And hell, they fed me well. You know, I gotta, you know, of course they won't be able to hear me or nothing, but you know, those guys, those drug lords, those Colombian drug lords, they fed me well, and I'm very thankful. Yeah.
And that's why it's inhumane It's that's what it is. Inhumane to feed them that dog food, pretty much. Because that's what it looked like. A lot of it is slop. And then they serve them on molded trays often. And I'm glad that you experienced that.
During your investigation.
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna say your investigation. I want to say it properly. Throughout you being investigated.
No, you still ain't saying problem. Throughout the witch hunt. Say, go ahead.
Did you ever have a bad vibe from anybody on your team throughout your investigation?
Oh, yeah.
So, as if, you probably can figure out who could probably be trying to play the sides. You feel what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Remember, the whole investigation was getting me out to get me. It's almost like that game we play when we were kids, King of the Hill. How can we get this guy off that hill so we could be up on the top of the hill? And it's a very coveted position, and people will do anything to get it. We saw in DeKalb County they killed a man that got elected to sheriff, and then of course they will indict you. They will go to any lengths to get that position if they feel that they can't win it. And like I said, we see it play out on locals level. We saw it in DeKalb with Burl Ellis. We saw it with Durham Brown. We saw it recently in Douglas County. We saw it on the national level. There are
Douglas County?
Yeah, Douglas County. They indicted the chairwoman there. Unfortunately, she was able to beat it at trial. Didn't get a whole lot of publicity, but this type of thing goes on all the time, and it's weaponization of the criminal justice system.
Exactly.
Exactly. So people will do anything to get power. So it's a very dangerous situation to be in. Like I wrote in my book, the most dangerous person for the sheriff is not criminals. Criminals, I was really worried about them. I'm not saying I was impervious to criminals or none of them didn't make threats or whatever, but 90% of them knew to stay away from me anyway, and the other 10% learned. But the sheriff's danger is his employees. Remember, when Durham Brown was killed, it was by a sheriff's deputy.
Wow.
Right. When you see the stuff that came to me, it was started by sheriff's deputies that worked for me, people that I fired or people that wanted to be sheriff, like Jeff Turner, who was the ex-county police. Well, believe it or not, he actually meant the police chief. Now that's, if we want to talk about DEI and debate that, that's DEI. Okay. But anyway, those were the folks that came up with all of this. So it wasn't like I had to really worry, oh, wow, I'm driving down the street. I mean, just like now, I go wherever I want. I run into people I've locked up or whatever. Everything's good because everyone knew I didn't make up a charge on them. It was the very people inside that was plotting all of this stuff. And that's who you got to worry. Every trial, there was somebody that worked there that they got to testify and lie and perjure and say, yeah, this happened, which didn't happen. So that's what a real danger for the sheriff or elected officials are, the enemy within.
So let's say can you run for sheriff again? Before I ask this question.
Not now.
Okay.
Not now. Right now, the only thing I can run for is Congress. Okay. My case would have to be overturned in order for me to run for sheriff, right?
Say, lo and behold, that happens.
Okay.
Right? What would you do differently now opposed to then than before? Would it be anything different?
Again, watch the people around me more closely.
Okay.
Right. I feel bad because I left Clayton County in bad hands. And the reason, and I've apologized to the county, I publicly said it was a mistake. And really what happened was I was trying to stop the DA and her friend from getting the position. So I backed the person, and, did I ever imagine he would do the things he's doing now? No. But when you look at the condition of the jail, the drugs, the people who've died or whatever, I feel I really left Clayton County in bad hands, and it's something I have to apologize on and take it on the chin. But I think if I ever had to go back to that position, I've got to really take a more closer look at who's around me, and if any situation come up again, you know, there's only so much you can know about people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, you know, people think that power and money changes people, but that's not really true. It only enhances who they are. You know, you ever had a friend, one friend gets drunk and he wants to hug you and tell you, hey man, I love you. Then the other one wants to fight you, right? Well, they always want to do that. The liquor just gave them the confidence to say, yeah, I think I can take you now or whatever. And the same thing with money. I've got two friends, both of them were poor now, both of them are rich. One of them, when he got rich, he went to Magic City and started throwing money in the air. The other one went to Africa and started feeding kids, and he's white. But that's who they were.
That's who they were.
Yeah, he was the type of dude that he was probably watching African kids and tearing up when he saw them starving. So when he got money, he went there, and the other guy always wanted to be a baller. So it's not that that's not who that's who they always were. They just couldn't be it because they didn't have the power or the money to do it. And then it enhanced it, and then you find out that, hey, you know, I'm in the presence of a fool. They just couldn't be a fool around you, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
What was your click to made you have the thought to wanna be part of Congress?
Well, again, I got to give the guys in Arkansas credit. It was their idea. I wish I could tell you I'm some great author and
No,
you know, I had the vision.
This is
Man,
nothing but the truth.
yeah. Man, let me tell you, I had someone ask me. I was on a show and she asked, okay, what do you think you taught those guys while you were there? And I had to pause and I was like, wait, I don't know if I taught them anything. They taught me, and it's in the book. I thought that my time there was going to be
Rough.
well, no, I thought it was gonna be my monastery. I thought I was gonna meditate. It became my university. They became my professors. And there's a class there for whatever you want to learn. When I tell you there's a class for whatever you want to, if you want to learn stocks and options, there's some guy there teaching it. If you want to learn how to sell drugs better, there's some guy there teaching it. You know what I'm saying? There's a school there for whatever you want to learn. And those guys taught me a lot. And
came out bilingual.
yeah, and it was their idea, you know, like I said, the fact that they actually studied the case and they even agreed, hey, something is wrong with one guy that helped research my case. He had been in a chair 16 hours, and he was like, really? And they didn't lock nobody up for leaving me in the chair. And these guys, I didn't leave them in 16 hours. You know what I'm saying? And he was one of the main ones that researched my case. And these guys taught me a lot. You know, I can honestly say I've been to the police academy twice, and I've been to the criminal academy, right? And both of them are very comprehensive.
Okay.
But those guys, man, I gotta be honest.
You learned a lot from prison.
Oh yeah, and learned a lot, and met
I done been
exactly.
You learn a lot from prison.
Exactly. And those guys, you
A lot of
know.
people don't understand that.
No, they don't understand, and you know.
You never been there, you won't know.
You won't know, and you know, and like I said, there's a lot there outside. There's 5 people died of overdoses. There was a lot of beatings. You know, if they didn't want you in the unit, they would beat you. There was no cameras where I was at, so you just lock in there. So you don't see a guard until one walk through, if they walk through. So if they decide they don't want you in there, they glove up. They beat you because the reason they got to, the guards go and check everybody's hand to see to see who's in the fight or whatever.
They
Right.
call it putting you on the door.
Exactly, and then you got to go and check yourself into the shoe. Exactly. You know, I actually, when I first got there, 3 hours later, I get called back up, and the lieutenant on duty said, "Just checking on you. Do they know who you are?" Yeah. Okay. Well, you scared? I'm like, no. Well, you know, if you get scared, just let us know. I mean, you can't come up here with us, but I don't even know what he was asking for. Yeah, what you gonna
So
do?
they can laugh.
Yeah, exactly. So then 3 months go by and nobody hears from me because, you know, we had more cameras and more control in the county jail than at this federal prison I was at. There was no cameras in there, so you just in there, right? And so what happens. So, and it was interesting. It was like a gladiator thing because, man, some of the best brawls I ever seen in my life was there. But I get called back up to this guy. He wasn't the warden or the assistant warden, but he was up there with them. And he said, I get called in his office, and he said, "Hey, I just want to call you up here." And I said, "Okay." He said, "I understand you're a high-profile figure in Atlanta." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess you could say that." And he was like, "Okay, well, is anybody giving you any problems?" I said, "No." Well, how's your family? I'm like, "They're fine." And they're probably wondering, because I told all my friends and family, "Don't come visit me. I'm good. You don't need to come up there, right?" Okay. And then he said, then the next thing he said, "Well, what about you? You need any help?" I was like, "What kind of help?" I mean, mentally. You need any mental help? I said, "No, I'm fine." And it was a moment. It was an awkward silence.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Okay, well, And I said, "Well, it was okay. I'll go back. I appreciate you checking." Here's the question: if you were that concerned, why would you put me in that unit anyway? Right? Come on, you know what I'm saying? Right. But I think they were shocked. And I spent my time, I was there to learn something. Well, I wasn't there to learn something. I was set up and put there. But what I was saying, I wanted to learn something. And I wasn't going to learn it from the guards. I already been a guard, so what I need to talk to them for? So I spent my time. I think the only guard I ever really talked to was the, what you call the guy, the guy that handles your paperwork or whatever. I can't remember. And good guy, by the way. But other than that, I stayed away from guards because I wanted to immerse myself to see how much I could learn. It's almost like that Batman movie where Batman put himself in prison so he could actually get the feel and learn. Exactly. So one of those things.
It's an experience, man.
It is. It is. It is.
It's a real experience, and I'm glad you seen yourself through it. You know what I'm saying? And we gotta bring this city back together, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I speak on that all the time, that we need to bring this city back together. And, this is one way that we could possibly start that process. You know what I mean? We got these guys, that took these plea deals, that have to do all this community service, this, that. I feel like they need to be a part of these type of situations.
Absolutely.
To where you being a person who has been there, that's on a political note, I feel like you'll be a good example for these guys right now.
And I hope I encourage them to run.
You know what I'm saying? That's why
And get involved so we can really change this stuff.
Let's do it.
Right.
Because that support, man, that support cast will be remarkable. You know what I mean? Because to see, I have insights that people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
To see Victor Hill, the sheriff of Clayton County, that everybody has portrayed over years to be a hard-nosed, zero-tolerance person who don't play whatsoever. And to see him go through something like you went through, and now that you're on the flip side, and you bringing other people who has been in criminal situations, you know what I'm saying, and overseen it, overcame, the best of it or the worst of it. To put that together, man, is like a Martin Luther King march to me. You understand?
Wow.
We're gonna have a peaceful protest, but understand that all of us has been through something.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? We ain't never had that.
Man, I appreciate that. That's deep. Let me tell you what's really overwhelming for me. I've had so many so-called convicted felons, because they try to put that status on you. But for all of the self-righteous people who want to say that, I hope y'all remember that Joseph was a convicted felon, Daniel was a convicted felon, and the master was a convicted felon. So think about that.
Think about it.
And let's also throw in Mandela, who became president, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
But to have so many, for lack of a better term, gangsters get in touch with me. Guys who have served time for armed robbery or whatever say, "Hey, I want to help you," or whatever. And these guys, man, like a guy named Gerald, and I was actually on his show, XCOM Media. And, this guy now is a family man or whatever. He served his time, Hey, yeah, I did do a robbery when I was a teenager. I served my time, but now I just want to go on with my life. I want to have the opportunity to do things.
Not
And he
a
got
child anymore.
exactly. And he has a beautiful family, beautiful wife, beautiful daughter, and he wants to provide for them, and he wants opportunities like everybody else, and he wants his rights restored. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's not a danger to society. Think about this. I had one young man contact me saying, hey, I really want to be a cop, but I got this felony I pled to. And it was I forgot the details, but it was something stupid. And you could tell some dumb prosecutor just went ahead and he said he took a plea. But anyway, he can't be a cop because of that. Okay, well, think about this. At the Clayton County Jail right now, all the people working there aren't convicted felons. But they bringing drugs in. Right, okay, so all these folks you hiring
Doing wrong.
that aren't convicted felons are bringing the drugs in, and then all the folks that aren't convicted felons one day pick up and say, you know what, I can have a gun, I'm gonna go to school and shoot people. Maybe we need to look at that.
That's right.
And then who better, and like this guy told me, he said, man, even Gerald was telling me, he said, I always wanted to be a cop. He said, I think I would be a great cop because of my experience. And what I know how to do. Well, think about it. I had a guy, and he was serving 30 years, and we was all sitting around. They were joking and talking, and some of the guys were talking about me back in Atlanta, and whether or not I was too hard or not. And what a lot of people don't understand is, man, those guys is probably harder on crime than I am. You come in there and steal, you done. Matter of fact, someone stole my tablet, and I reported it to the sheriff, for lack of a better term, not the guards, the sheriff, the guy that ran the unit. And that was investigated, and that dude was running for his life, and he checked himself into a shoe, and I had my tablet back. So they don't like crime either. They don't like child molesters either, whatever. But one of them said something I thought was profound. He said, I really don't see what the problem is. And I said, why? He said, he was talking to the ground, I don't see what the problem is. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, who do you send to catch a serial killer? You send a killer, you don't send a Boy Scout. Now, I'm not saying I'm a killer, but he was trying to give an analogy, right? Right. He's like, who's going to understand and be able to find them or whatever like that? So, so when you get Boy Scouts and folks that never won a playground fight, and you make them the sheriff, then you get what you get now. The inmates run the jail. The drugs come in, they get shot up or whatever. You can't. Clayton County is not Mayberry.
Right.
And Andy Griffin and Barney is not going to be able to control Clayton County. And that's what we got there now, Andy Griffin and Barney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we it's a good thing, man. It's good seeing you, my brother.
Good to see you.
It's good having you coming to the show, you know what I'm saying? And it's got to be God, man, because I have spoke on you so much, you wouldn't believe it.
I'm honored.
And for Shanita to call, man, and say, want to come to the show? And I was like, who? She said, Victor Hill. I said, bullshit. I'm just being real. I said, man, that's my man.
He
She
did.
said, for real? I
Yeah,
said,
he
hey,
did.
man, that's my man's, man. You know what I'm saying?
And the thing is, he don't. A lot of people call to come, and I know we're small. We're just getting started. A lot of people call him. He don't. He say it on here. He be like, anybody can come, but certain people, he like, oh no.
Yeah.
Well, I'm honored.
You have to keep that. You have to. You have to. I try to live up to that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's not just there because that's what we named the show.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is, we won't, because we created this show, man, to make the people aware of what's really going on.
Right.
So I'm not going to lie to the people.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to try to dress it up, sugarcoat it. Hey, man, it is what it is when you come in here. You know what I'm saying? And I want my guests to be comfortable.
Absolutely.
With communicating to the people because this is who we are talking to.
Absolutely.
We're sitting at the round table talking to the people, having a conversation.
Absolutely.
And I chose to have it like this because as we can see, all these other podcasters and, you know, people that, you know, supposedly calling themselves doing these talk shows and all this. Hey man, you not only can you see the fakeness, you can hear it in the conversation.
Absolutely.
You feel what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, you know, and I told Shanita, you know, she used to be on me all the time about, man, we need to get somebody. Now, you know, God will put it there. God will put the right people to come to the show.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? Because if we don't want it, we can't allow it to come in because we feel like we not progressing like we should or like we want to be.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a time thing. It's a time thing, man. When people look at this show later, I want them to be able to look at it and enjoy seeing people having a conversation and being real.
Exactly.
You feel what I'm saying? They get enough fake shit.
Right.
24
And
hours,
all this
18
all
days.
politically correct
Yeah,
stuff or
you know what I'm
whatever,
saying?
and
So-
just speaking the truth.
You know, and I don't, you know, and I say a lot of times, I don't want a lot of people of status
Yeah.
to come on this show because they have to be fake to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, they have to do a lot of misleading talk. You know, I want you to say what you got to say.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want you to feel like, now this somewhere I can go and I can be me.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know, and we make the best of a bad situation, which is giving people the messages, giving
Right.
people the knowledge and the education that this is actually what's going on, man.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? Because they don't know. The people don't know. And like I learned this from sitting downtown for 36 months. Every day.
Yeah.
People don't know how this system actually do us.
That's so
Yeah.
corrupt.
And how people actually how a group of people can get together, man, and put together a scheme and say, now who's gonna be the aggressor and actually do it.
You're right about it. There's a lot of people naive to that. You're right.
Man,
You know, I had a guy, he's a preacher in Clayton County, and when they first came up with this stuff the first time, never forget it, he and I sat down and had a frank conversation, and I told him how disgusted I was with him, and he was like, why? Because I said, you know, I guess preachers ain't like they used to be. I thought you would have fought and stood up to the DA or whatever, and this is what he told me. He said, well, you know, when I heard all those charges, I thought, well, he had to have done something. So, I mean, there's a lot of people naive. Certainly a DA wouldn't conjure up charges or lie to a grand jury
Right,
or
certainly they
send
would.
someone to prison because they
Exactly.
want the chairman to be sheriff. That just can't happen. But no, these people exist.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
They exist, and they're right there. They're there in Clayton. They're
We
here in
just
Fulton.
lived it.
Exactly.
You know
And
what
they
I'm
will
saying?
lie, and they have lied. And we don't know how many people are in prison
Oh,
Because
some
of
lies.
this.
because of them.
Right.
Now we know people are there because they need to be there and they actually did it.
Right.
But but I think if we find the amount of people that had to take a plea to something they didn't do, or the amount of
You'll
people,
find out they were
I
innocent
think that number
all
would be
the while.
shockingly higher than what we think it is. I used to always
Right.
thought it was about, okay, well,
That's
I
right.
knew it was going on. Sometimes accidents, sometimes stupidity, or sometimes just bad cops
Bad.
Right.
planting evidence or
Right.
perjury. But I always thought was probably that 10% number.
Yeah.
Based on what has happened in my experience with the DA in Clayton County and my experience with this federal judge and this prosecutor Buchanan that just suddenly resigned when the new administration came in, right? Who knows? That number is probably a lot higher than what I thought.
Exactly.
Right. And then let me tell you got to be careful of too. Now, one thing that I'm proud of, there was a lot of craziness that I had to stop when I was sheriff. You never heard about it, but you would stop about it. I know my guy was locked up, a woman one time, because she set off a firecracker in the courtroom, which is a dumb thing to do, and she should have been locked up. But her attorney calls me, and it turns out she was charged with explosive device something. Okay. That charge carried about 5 to 10 years.
Well, she didn't
Okay.
obtain a
So I-
firecracker in the court.
Exactly. So I called them in on it. I was like, how y'all come up with this charge?
With that charge, yeah.
Right. Okay. Listen, is she an idiot? Yeah. Should she be in jail? Yeah. But
That long.
I'm not gonna be behind sending her to jail for 5 to 10 years for a firecracker. I said you need to go to the DA's office and get that reduced to something more reasonable. So then they come back to me and say, well, the DA won't do it. Said if we're gonna drop it, we're just gonna have to drop the whole thing. But they're not putting it. So we ain't got no choice. Yeah, we got a choice. So go ahead and drop it. I guess she getting ready to leave because I'm not gonna be a part of prosecuting some dumb stuff like that. And you have no idea how much that stuff happened.
Yeah.
And had I not intervened, she probably would have had to take a plea to something, or who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because no doubt, it's that type of stupidity that goes on. And so there are people, they might be guilty of something, but they're not necessarily guilty of what they're charged with, or
Charge outweigh the crime.
it outweigh the crime. Like giving a nonviolent drug person like Alice Johnson that much time.
Right.
Her first offense,
Right.
never killed anyone, no weapons involved. And you telling me that she's going to be in jail the rest of her life?
Yeah.
So, I'm just very, I think it's so ironic that she's in the position she's in now. And that's something I think people need to think about.
I'm glad she's there.
I'm glad she's there.
glad.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I say that all the time.
That's crazy, man. But we gotta, you can. I feel like you the best man for the job to set
I
that
do
stage.
too.
And you might sometimes, man, the timing to me it makes a big difference. You know what I'm saying? And it could be time for the change to go through Congress. You feel what I'm saying? And you could be the chosen one to do that. You know what I mean? Because something had to make you interested in going that way. You feel what
And
I'm
God
saying?
is strategic. He let us go through stuff to help other people too.
That's true.
It's in you.
Well, that you may well be right about that. I mean, think about it. Legally, there's nothing else I can run for at this moment, and maybe that is God's plan. You think you're going this way, and He cuts off those doors so you could go that way. Who knows? That could well be the case. One thing I know for sure: the Democratic Party needs strong masculine energy, and we need, we need a image change. Don't laugh at me, but I hate the fact that the mascot is a jackass. I really do. I had a friend of mine that he used to always say, I can't trust politicians further than I can throw a Republican elephant on a Democratic jackass. And I was like, man, why is it that the party I'm a member of, and there's a story behind that. It came from some cartoon or whatever. But I would like my party to have a symbol like a lion, not a jackass. I hope that's something that can change one day. But we got to be able to live up to that symbol.
Got to.
And right now, with the dysfunctional,
So we living up to the jackass.
Yeah,
I'll say it for you.
Yeah.
But I always say this, man. To everybody. Say it to you. Everything that we go through in life, I feel, this is my opinion. You'll hear me say this a lot. This be my opinions. Anything that we go through in life, man, that's part of our story that God has written for us. So when we go through things, man, it's meant. If it wasn't meant, we wouldn't go through it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We gotta start respecting the metaphors properly now. Because it's actually being put in existence. A lot of our metaphors are being put in existence, man. So for that to be part of your story, for you to go through these turmoils, God wrote that. God has that in your script. You know what I'm saying? For us to be sitting here having this conversation today, this is part of our script.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All of us supposed to be in this room right now. You feel what I'm saying? So we got to take heed to these things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And not just look at it as, okay, shit, Big chose to go kick it with Big Jeff and them today. No, go ahead, put it there.
Part of
This
God's plan.
been wrote since 59 years ago when I was born. You understand what I'm saying? This been wrote, this been written. We just living it out.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? We living it out. When me and you met, man, you know, we clicked. You know, and I tell people this all the time. When I first met Victor Hill, we clicked as if we had always known each other, man. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't I was being bashful to say something to him, or he felt like he was on a level to where he didn't have to talk to me. None of that. We clicked. You know what I'm saying? So that let me know that somewhere down the line, it was meant for Victor Hill to be a part of Big Jeff.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And then lo and behold, look what happens 6 years later.
You're right.
Vic sitting right here in front of Big Jeff again, man, and we having this type of conversation.
Awesome.
Man, you need to open the doors to the church now.
You know, so, you know, I really believe in it.
Yeah.
I really believe
Yeah.
that everything that happens to us in life, man, is part of our story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And who can tell it better than us? We live it.
That's true.
We live it, man. So, you know, I don't think that this is a coincidence. I think that this is our story, man.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We supposed to be here today.
Yeah.
You know, you could have been somewhere else if it was written.
True. It
You
makes sense.
understand what I'm
It makes
saying?
sense.
Everybody here could have been somewhere else other than him.
And
We could have
things-
thought of somewhere else to go besides him.
Yeah.
Right.
But we him, man.
That's true.
You could have got lost, Vic. And that's why I feel so blessed and honored, man. You got lost. It wouldn't have been shit for you to say,
I ain't coming.
man, I'm finna go on back home.
Yeah.
I'm not finna go on through this with this because they done sent me to the wrong place, this, that, and the third. But you still came, man,
Thank
because it's
you.
on your heart, because God said this is where you need to go, son. You understand what I'm saying? Vic, I'd have got here at 6:30, brother. You understand what I'm saying? You've been ready. You've been saying, man, I'm not waiting on this goddamn cat. You know what I mean? So I made it my business. I'm gonna get here on time for Vic today.
Wow.
If Vic gonna show up today, I'm gonna be waiting on Vic this time. He ain't gonna have to wait on me. You know what I'm saying? Hey man, and I'm honored.
Yeah.
We
But,
are honored.
man, the honor is mine. And, you know, I'll just say this, man. You know, you took me back to, I used to go to this Bible study in Arkansas in that prison. And some serious preachers there. And I'll never forget, because that kind of brought me to what you're talking about. So it's so interesting to hear you say this. So one of the guys was preaching, and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Hill, I understand you used to live a privileged life. And of course, everybody started cracking out. It was funny, by the way, but you know. And he said, you know you're here for a reason, right? So I looked at him, because the only reason I know I'm there because I was set up, you know. And he said, the reason you're here is you were sent here to see what really happens. You're supposed to go out and fight for it.
That's it.
No
man.
prison.
So think about this. I'm with a group of men that I spent my whole career hunting. And now these guys have rallied around me and say, hey, you need to go represent us.
That's
Gotta
right.
do it.
That's right.
Yeah,
Amen. And that's how it's planned to be, brother.
yeah.
It's planned to be like that, man. So, you know, with all that being said, my brother, if you can give the world and all the listeners that's listening to us on this show right now a thought of magnitude and, you know, on any type of advice on how to live, how to approach things, or how to manage situations, this, that, and the other, what would it be?
Wow, that's a profound question. You know, this is probably not germane to what we're talking about. I think the greatest thing I've learned out of all of this is a lot about leadership. And, you know, we all think in our egos that we can create leaders. And really that's not true. You know, leaders are really born. They're not made. All we can do is recruit them. And there's a saying that will always stick with me. It says an army of chickens led by an eagle will always be defeated. Will always defeat, rather, an army of eagles led by a chicken. An army of chickens led by an eagle will always defeat an army of eagles led by a chicken. And I've learned the hard way just how important leadership is and how important strong leadership is. And if you don't have strong, good leadership,
You can't have good followers.
that's exactly
You
right.
can't have good followers.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And when there's a vacuum of leadership, the people suffer.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I guess the reason I say that is this, and it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. You know, I will always recruit leaders instead of trying to make leaders in the future, because I want to make sure, because you have to pass the mantle on at some point.
That's right.
And I don't ever want to leave people in bad hands again.
Yeah. And people got to be just like you.
Yeah.
They got to be just like you, man. You know, as a leader, you have to have your people trained to be just like you, man. You know what I mean? And I'm a strong believer in that.
Yeah, and if we could create them, then, you know, the NFL would create a Tom Brady for every
Thank you.
team.
For every team.
Right, a Michael Jordan for every, right, right.
See.
They're not created, they're born.
That's right.
And what we gotta do is find them and make sure we put them where they need
In
to
position.
be. Because like I said earlier, you can put a crown on a donkey,
That's it.
but at the end
That's
of the
it.
day,
He's still a jackass.
that's exactly
You know what I
right.
mean? You know, so amen, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me,
You know,
brother.
you can, one thing you can do, my brother, you can always show up here.
Hey, I'm on it.
We
You
here
know,
And when you
Friday.
win, we need you to come back.
I will.
We here every Friday, 6 o'clock.
Tell him,
Every
Big Jeff,
Friday.
after he gets this office, we need
Still
a
come
return
back.
visit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, when you get your office, brother, I'm coming to see you.
Yeah. We can broadcast from there.
That's
We can
right.
broadcast from
We're gonna
there.
be live
Oh,
in your
that'll be
office,
great.
dog. You know what I'm
That'll
saying?
be
You know,
great.
And you can really depend on us to be supportive, man.
Man, I appreciate you.
You know what I'm saying? You know, and I'm saying that from my heart, brother.
Right.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna support you. I'm gonna keep mentioning you, running for Congress on the show. We gonna, Shanita is a big activist. I'm talking about, she has supported a lot of families that has went through some tragic loss.
Right. And I want to talk to you. I want to ask you about, you said you were a homicide. You have a background in homicide. And I wanted to ask you, and we can do it off air, about that case in Douglasville with Malachi Mitchell, where he was found deceased.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way the officers knew about him being deceased was the guy that murdered him ran the stoplight, didn't get a traffic violation, traffic ticket, and they let him go home. And he had a dead body in his car. Did
Where
you
was
hear
the
about
dead
that?
body at?
In Douglasville.
No, I mean,
Douglas
where was
County.
the dead body at in the car?
Oh, I don't know. They hadn't give the specific details to the family. It's still under investigation. And right now, the DA in Douglas County is stating that she is going to be rendering a decision on whether or not to pursue criminal charges against the person that has already admitted that they murdered him.
Yeah, definitely. Let me tell you, anytime y'all want me to come back, and especially, what I forgot to say is I actually have a podcast with my brother.
No.
And we discuss crimes, police brutality, stuff like that. We'll look at stuff like that.
We'll come and sit
But-
down with y'all.
But we'd love to have y'all. But what I really love doing, I enjoyed one of the highlights of my career, other than being sheriff, was being a homicide detective. And a lot of it has to do with crime scene reconstruction and stuff like that. You know, I used to train a lot in blood pattern analysis and stuff like that. And recently, a case was brought to me that was very interesting. Someone asked me to help with, and it's actually a case out of Clayton County where it was ruled a suicide, but the daughter said this can't be because you're saying my mother shot herself on the right side of her temple, but she's left-handed. And I spoke to the young lady, and I told her, I said, you know, there's a distinct pattern on the hand of a person of a self-inflicted wound, because when you shoot yourself, you can only shoot yourself within about 3 inches, because you know if you point your finger to your head, as you move, there's no way you can point it. So I can't shoot myself from here, right? But there's a blowback spatter, and it's very, very unique. It's high-velocity blood spatter is what we call it. And it's either there or it's not. And that's something I always look for, because I instantly know if it's a suicide or if it's a murder or not. So I met with the private detective, and he showed me the pictures, and that pattern was not there. And I was like, hey, y'all absolutely right on this one. The good part is the medical examiner has changed it from suicide to undetermined. And I know that he has met with the county police, asked them to reopen it, and they said they will get back with him. And, you know, we'll be monitoring that to make sure. But, you know, sometimes bad police work is done, or lack of training where people don't understand, or they're not properly trained to know what to look for.
What would be a sign of a cover-up on an investigation for a murder?
Well, I could tell you this. You know, you got the physical evidence, but then you also got what people say. And, you know, that's a whole different school in itself. They call it interviews and interrogations. And you learn how to talk to people and listen to them and tell whether they lying or not. And, you know, I could tell you this. I could let you in on one short little clue. And I'm going to tell you the same thing they told us in class. Do not go home and try this with your wife or husband and they'll say they cheating or whatever. But, you know, but people pause before they lie.
They lie.
And
So you hear that, Whitney?
The reason they do this is a creative process. So, you know, if I ask you, hey, man, what were you, doing 30 minutes ago? Hey, I was on the show with Victor Hill, because that's what, you don't have to make it up. But, you know, when you ask a person a question and they can't tell you the truth, so they got to create where they are, there's a pause. And, you know, so, you know, when you ask, hey, where were you at last night? And they pause, they got to create it. Don't go and ask your old man that and start that. All right, but, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that pretty much tell you. But let me just say this again. Remember, again, leaders aren't made, they're born. I mean, I know
So
guys
true.
that have gone to command college and they can't command a playground fight, and they've gone to the FBI Academy and can't find a hooker in a whorehouse. You know, you got to find people who got that innate ability, because it's going to come natural. Then you get them the training. But you just can't put anybody and put a detective badge on them and send them to school and think they're going to be able to do it, because they're not going to be able to. But if you find the right person and then train them, because a good cop's supposed to be able to hear a story and know something is not right, and say, let me tell you what really happened before I lock you up for lying. But there's some folks, they just don't have it. I mean, we've seen cops that can get talked into anything. I remember I was at a department, and there was one guy, they just had to move him. He could not work. He couldn't work the West End, you know, because they were going to get over on him. They could tell him anything, he'd believe it. I mean, literally, you'd be surprised.
Him
Yeah.
over there.
Investigator, what the name on our case, investigator, what is Owen or something? When Woody said he got the mind of a damn.
Oh, Moody. Yeah.
He got the mind of a bird to me.
Yeah, I remember him saying
And
that.
here's a man they saying is incompetent. Saying this about a man who's supposed to have all the sense in the world.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Come on now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I follow you right now.
Yeah.
I follow you right now.
But there's some things, we always remember, there's some things you just can't recreate.
Yeah.
You know, there's some things you can't recreate. Like you can't kill a person and then put a gun in his hand and make him grip it. We call it the grip of death. So if I find a dead body and he's gripping it. Just like, you know how they say a drowning man will reach for straws? That actually came from literal, because people are drowning and they reach for
right.
seaweed or something. You pull them out the water and they're still
have
holding it
strength in
because
it.
it happened at the point of death. And it can't be recreated. So if that body and that scene is not consistent with what the suspect is saying, then you can start to chop the legs from under it and go
So-
from there.
We hope that, and I'm praying for that investigation to come out in Malachi's favor, for the family, because everybody knows that there's one side that has been told right now. Malachi can't tell his story, so his family is fighting for justice for him.
Along with the young man who was found rolled up in the restaurant.
Kendrick Johnson.
Yeah, I watched that documentary.
Well, they took the fingernails out. They,
Come on, man.
it's
Yeah.
just some things that they know that there, has been foul play, but everybody's sweeping it under the rug.
You know, the sad part about it is how much politics gets involved in investigations. Excuse me. And sometimes you have investigations where people don't want to admit they're wrong. Then sometimes you have investigations where they know who did it, but they don't want to prosecute them. I mean, we got that going on in Clayton County right now. I mean, we got obvious cases that you could tell that there's been misappropriation with the former chairman, but he's friends with the DA, so that's not going to happen. And then we got a case where we know they both covered up child molestation at the Rainbow House. Well, you got the fox guarding the chicken pen. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she's not going to investigate herself, and she's not going to investigate him for doing that. So you get all these politics mixed up, and then you get surprised, which gets covered under the rug. And it's so interesting to see when people choose who to prosecute and who not to. Even if you look at my case, Gwinnett County, throw people in a chair, assault them, no prosecution. Fast forward, Fulton County.
Yeah.
You get the U.S. attorney, the one that miraculously resigned when the new administration came in. He said, yeah, they've been tasing and beating people. Well, we're going to work with them with a consent decree. Well, why wasn't there a consent decree in my case when no one was injured, no one made a complaint till y'all went and looked for them?
Yeah.
But, hey, we got to go straight with a criminal indictment, and you got to go straight to jail. And that's when politics get involved. It doesn't become about justice anymore. It becomes about these prosecutors who they're criminals. And like I said, I'm not just going to fight street crime in Congress.
Yeah.
They're just as much as criminals as the ones they claim.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And they need to be dealt with as well.
Man, Vic, I went to Fulton County at like 4 in the morning. Sat in the parking lot till about 6 because I had got a phone call that one of my loved ones had been assaulted.
In the jail.
In the jail. So I told that man, his mom supposed to meet them. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, man. Well, 5 something in the morning. The officers changed the shift coming in on shift. I asked 3 officers, 2 guys and a young lady. I said, excuse me, what time do the sheriff normally get here, or what time do the sheriff be here so that I can try to meet with him or this, that, and other? The first person said, he don't come here. Really? And he kept walking. True story. Second person come. Same question. Man, that man don't come over here. Oh, nah, I can't hear this 3 times now. You know what I'm saying? The young lady come. Asked her the same question. She said, your guess just as good as mine, but nobody never just stopped. That's what I looked at the most.
Yeah.
Not one officer ever just stopped and even insinuated, who are you?
And why
Why
out
you
there?
asking about the cell? Anything. What's
Right,
the
you
problem?
could have been there trying
Man.
to take him out or something.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
could have been anybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very, very true.
That's not
know.
good. That's not a good look for a sheriff. Your jail is your house.
I agree. You know, one thing is, I've rarely found any jail that the sheriff goes inside. Now, I went in my jail a lot, you know. True story. I took my grandmother in my jail, and we walked in maximum security. That's just how much command and control we had. I wasn't worried about it one bit at all. She was very pleased. Of course, she's gone on to be with the Lord. But my grandmother actually walked with me through the jail because we had just that amount of command and control. Everything at the jail was paramilitary. Sir, yes, sir. Sir, no, sir. Ma'am, yes, ma'am, whatever like that. And we didn't have those type of problems there. And the reason I say that is this. I hope that all sheriffs will take a look at frontline leadership. I can't know what's going on in my jail unless I walk the jail, and I gotta walk it. And you know, I used to always say this, and of course it was misconstrued or whatever. And I used to always tell people, listen, I'm not the Lord, but it's something He and I have in common, because no one knows the day nor the hour I'm gonna walk in this jail. So be ready. Right.
Be ready, man.
And that's why the jail was always clean, and why I was always, because they never knew I was coming. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, it could be 3 o'clock in the evening. That any moment I could walk to jail, because you got to inspect what you expect. Same thing on the streets. I can't control the streets, and I don't know what's going on out there, so I had to patrol the county. I had to actually ride and see what was going on and see problems and see people, hey, these folks shouldn't be here. I need some cars here, make sure they're gone. There's graffiti here, make sure it's down. You know, I've seen something that looked like drug activity. Why don't y'all come and look into this or whatever? But that's the only way you're going to be able to have that. And I just hope that, you know, they teach in chief school that you really shouldn't be out there. You know, I remember I went to a barricaded suspect call, and I called the acting chief of Clayton County. He's not there anymore. And I said, hey, I'm out here. Tell me what you need. Are you on your way? And he said, hey, man, I just got back from chief school. He said, they said we're really not supposed to be out there because if something happened, they could blame it on us. We're supposed to come after it and do the press conference because of whatever. And, you know, I will never subscribe to that.
Yeah.
I will never believe that. I mean, that might be a good way to play it safe. But all the great generals we knew, like Patton, they led from the front. They were at the front line with it. That way they knew what was going on. They could get the real information. And the troops could tell them what it really is. It's easy for me to sit all the way over here and say they don't need this and need that. But if I'm out there and they tell me, hey, I need a shovel so I can dig a deeper trench, I'm there with them, and hell, I need to get a shovel and start digging with them. Then when I go back, hey, get these guys some more shovels.
That's right.
So that's the only way that you can gain control of a situation like that. You got to lead from the front. And I will always aspire to that. They can, you know, did they ultimately use it when they conspired to put this case against me? Was he doing in the jail? Was he doing talking to criminals?
Yeah.
They may have it. They lied. That's why the jail was under control. I talk to criminals in the jail all the time. It was nothing for me to tell folks that were shooting, beating up old ladies, don't come back here.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's how we got to get back to it. No different than the old sheriffs in the Old West that say, hey, be out of town by sundown.
That's right.
I used to tell criminals, be out my county.
Your system, man, you know, and I know a lot of guys who came through Clay County during your term. Let me tell you something I heard the most out of damn near probably 98% of them. I'll never go back. That's what you want to hear.
Exactly.
You understand? That's the narrative that you want a convict to have, not to want to come back to jail.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So the plan worked. It's working.
And, you know, a lot of people, they think there's this great hate out there. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some folks out there that don't like me and never will. I mean, that's life. But you'd be surprised how many thank yous. Like I got from a young man that I met here, hey, I was in your jail. I'm doing good now. I appreciate it. And ironically, what's happening now is I got a group of fans I thought I'd never had. I've had people get out of jail, get in contact with me on Facebook and say, hey, let me tell you something, man. I did not like you when you were there, but you need to be back. I've never seen that much dope. I've never seen that many people getting stabbed. At least I didn't have to worry about.
They respect the authority.
Exactly.
Right, and they want to be safe in it. They don't want to go to jail and
They
get
want to go
killed.
do their
either.
time and safe in
Exactly.
safety,
Right.
right?
Man.
So,
You know,
so it's a main. There you go.
it's that authority figure. And sometimes we as knuckleheads, from being in the street thinking that we are the shit in the street, we don't want to follow rules. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we become convicts, because we don't want to play by the damn rules until we are forced to have to play by the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So once we go through that experience, I always have said it take a damn fool to keep going to jail.
That's true.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's
you
true.
know, you got that something got to be wrong with you, man, to want to keep going back and forth to jail. Let's know prison.
Yeah.
You know.
Before we end this, I gotta give credit where credit is due, though. You just made me think about a man I want to make sure I honor tonight, and his name was Reuben Greenberg. He used to be the chief of police at Charleston City. He was the first and only African American chief. And when I tell you this dude was legendary, he actually wrote a book called "Let's Take Back Our Streets."
That's it.
And I went to work for him when I was 18, but I gotta be honest with you. I didn't like him for a long time. I thought this man is too strict. And when I tell you, I mean, he had, we talk about everybody's scared of something. Everybody was scared, not just the criminals. I was scared too, whatever. I mean, this man would have lines outside his office every week, standing in line. Folks getting suspended, getting transferred. I mean, he was passing out suspensions and terminations like the Easter Bunny was passing out candy. And I've been in that line a few times.
Yeah.
And I just thought this man was too hard, too strict. But one thing everybody knew, no one fooled around in Charleston while he was there.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up going to work someplace else, and I thought that was going to, I thought, man, at least I ain't got to deal with this no more. And it turns out,
You wish you hadn't stayed where you was at.
man, I end up, you know how you go back and you tell your father, hey, I understand why I used to do that, because at first, man, it's too hard. Now, I had to go back and apologize to him. And I was like, now I understand why you ran things the way you did. I owe you an apology.
Aww.
And you were right to put your foot up my behind. He was. And, he just looked at me and smiled. But I learned a lot from him. Yeah, most of what I know
Thank you. And you were how old?
came from him. Man, I'm 60.
I'm saying you were how old?
Oh, I was 19. I was 18, just turning 19 when I went to work for him.
18.
Exactly.
How old were you when you became the sheriff?
I was 38, turning 39.
38. You were 18
Right.
when you got your experience.
Yes.
20 years later, you became that same man.
And went back and apologized. And I say, Chief, I saw him at a conference and he was still the chief. He was chief for 23 years. And I said, hey, I owe you an apology.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something else. I apologized when I was sheriff, but actually I did keep in touch with him. I remember I would go back. My admiration grew for him after I was gone because, they say a leader doesn't know how well he's led till after he's gone. But I don't think you appreciate a leader until you're no longer under him or whatever. And I'll never forget, I went back home and went to see him. And he said, hey, I'm going out on patrol tonight if you want to come. Remember, I learned from him. This dude was out on the streets at night, right? So I'm riding in the car with him one night, and this is what really got to me, and I wrote about it in a book. So we drove down Rutledge and Line Street, and he looked at me and he asked me, he said, what you hear on the radio? And I said, sir, what you mean? He said, what do you hear on the radio? I said, I don't hear anything on the radio, right? He said, that's right. He said, you see that corner right there? I said, yeah. He said, who you see standing there?
Nobody.
I said, nobody. He said, do you remember how this radio was going when you was here? And remember all the dudes that was standing there? He said, yeah. He said, I got rid of all of them. It's gone. He said, that's why you see this. And I was like, wait a second. And that's right then when I knew.
Another life lesson.
Exactly. And I said, somebody needs to do this in Clayton County. And
life lesson.
and that's when I knew I was gonna be that man. And it's because of him. He's gone on to be with the Lord too.
Yeah.
But he would be what I would call my law enforcement father.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a hard lesson because he did not spare the foot on me at all.
Man, he gave it
But
to you raw and
but
real.
I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for him.
He gave it to you
Yeah.
raw and real. That's the way it's
Absolutely.
supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so we learn this. That's why I'm so headstrong about everything you go through, man, is your story. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You know, so if people just be able to tell their stories, bro, you know how much that might can save somebody, man. Just to know it's somebody who has actually went through something that has a stability to where now I can see from being on the outside looking in to where, like you say, like we said earlier, you got guys who wind up in trouble and then they get stuck in the rut because the system has programmed them to think that I can't do no better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You feel what I'm saying? I can't go get a job because I'm a convicted felon.
Right.
But you put these stipulations on this man. It's not that he don't want to work. You have made it where he can't work.
That's exactly right.
You feel what I'm saying?
So repeated cycle.
Now, like I say, it goes back to now by you being in a position to where you have been on both sides of the fence. You understand.
That's gonna be awesome.
And better.
Right.
Now you can enforce it. That's your story, bro. It's time for you to be in Congress so you can get that covenant out for all this extra shit that we supposed to be done got rid of.
Yeah.
That still exists. You know what I'm saying? You know, Confederacy is what we're living.
That's true. Yeah.
You understand? So, you know, because nobody want to step up and say, we got to change this shit.
Right.
So God has taken Mr. Hill and so okay, I'm gonna give your ass this experience.
Yeah.
Now that you done had this experience, go do what you supposed to do.
That part.
You gonna win that shit.
You gonna win because it's meant to be.
You understand what I'm saying? That's where you supposed to be, bro.
Hey, I receive it. You know, he took Joseph from the prison to the palace.
Come
So.
on, man.
There you go.
Come on, man. So you
We
know-
got Miss Bertha Howard on here. She said that she is mad that you're not here now that we have so much crime here.
Oh, she stayed in Clayton County.
Yeah.
That's my sister. That's one of my sisters out of my community, out
Wow.
of the Jonesboro
Wow.
community.
Tell her I appreciate her so much, and tell her it's not over yet.
Her brother,
I'm gonna find a way to help no matter what.
her brother was the sheriff in Fulton County in, I think, like the early 2000s. I don't know if you remember, there was a sheriff. He had worked a double shift. It was on his way home after work and had a wreck. He killed himself. Fell asleep.
My condolences.
Yeah, that was her brother.
Okay.
His last name was Howard too.
Okay.
They're Howard. He worked
Wow.
at Fulton County.
Wow.
Yeah, he had done work the double shift, man. Now him, man, that man used to work, man, I don't even think the man took a damn day off.
Off, yeah.
As a
Wow.
sheriff, I'm serious, man. He always was at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved it.
Yeah,
and
he loved
and
his
he
job,
lived it.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. Please give Miss Bertha my regard, and you know, just let her know it ain't over yet.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
She said you also work with Mark Harris in Clayton County.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure to
She-
ask her how
she
he's
well
doing.
informed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She well informed.
Absolutely.
She been
Yeah.
in Clayton County a long time.
Yes. Yes.
She stays off of Old Dixon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a resident off of Old Dixon.
You know I'm gonna take y'all up on your offer. I'm gonna stop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I ain't gonna come every Friday, but
Hey man, you
I'm-
come, you get ready.
I will definitely come
you
because
get ready.
I
You come see
enjoy.
your boy when you get ready, man. And I'm gonna pop
I'm
in on
looking
you.
forward
You gotta
to
give us
your
your
election. I'm looking
address
forward.
so we
Oh,
can
absolutely.
get on
Phone
y'all.
number, everything. Yeah. I love the fellowship.
Yeah,
I love this
She
conversation.
keep on point. She keep on point.
Yes.
Yeah, she keep on point, man. She, you know, like when you start getting in tune with her, man, you gonna see that she's a real benefit.
Oh, thank you.
I believe that.
Man, and
I believe that.
She's, you know, when I say 100% dedicated to activists, she's a 100% dedicated activist, bro, to where she will travel any goddamn. I'm not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? With Shanita,
Maybe.
Shanita go to West Hill, man, to fight.
Sound like she need to be on my congressional staff or something. That's what that
I-
sounds
I've
like.
received congressional rewards.
Yeah.
And
That's what that
would be
sound
great.
like.
Let's
Yeah.
do
She
it.
has been fighting with me, man, since day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't left me yet.
You know, that's one thing I want to do. I want a very diverse staff.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who I mean, I want everybody. I'm not just saying I'm only going to hire this particular group or that. But I definitely want some convicted fellas on my staff.
Let's
Oh, yeah,
do
man,
it.
man,
Yeah,
man, you
yeah.
can't go wrong.
Right, because
Can't go wrong, man.
you know, there's a lot that's happened at the BOP, and they would understand that. And it's more to it than just convicted felons. It's their families and stuff like that. I mean,
'cause
even
we're the ones
right,
who suffer too.
exactly. Even okay, if you're in jail and you serve your time, fine. But you're not supposed to be raped. You're not supposed to be shanked or whatever. So you got aunts and grandmothers home worried about their sons, and it's not. And it's not necessarily, they didn't wish that for them. They didn't train them to do that. But now they're in that particular situation because of a mistake they made, intentional or not. And, there's a lot of people that stay up at night wondering if their family members are going to make it out of that prison.
You don't
So-
understand.
Right.
It's
Man.
a TV show that, and this was real strange to me that I'm gonna say God made me. Well, I'm not a TV person like that, honestly.
Yeah, me either. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Hey man, I sat at home one day. I had been sick, and this show came on. Right. Let me tell you something, man. After about 7 months of that show, I literally had to force myself not to look at that show, man, because I was learning so much from it to where I started feeling like I was part of the damn show. I'm
What
saying
show
I
was
was
that?
that deeply embedded in that show, man. And I'm gonna tell you what that show was.
Love out the
He
lockup.
gave you Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bro, to watch that show,
Mm-hmm.
and you looking at it from a criminal standpoint and then a legal standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you listen to what those folks say, man, when they breaking down those goddamn people that they finna go out and try to capture,
Yeah.
and to see all of those minds speaking a different language on the behavior of this one person, man. Dog, that shit is fascinating to me. To see 5 or 6 people break down one person,
Yeah.
and everybody's damn near on point on what they saying about this person. Now. You know what I'm saying? And to see them execute it, dog,
Yeah.
and actually capture that person, man,
Yeah.
that blowed me. I was finding myself in that shit every day, man.
Well, I understand why you wanted to take a break. It's kind of like, method actors.
Yeah.
Those actors, they're so good, they become that person.
That person.
Right.
They become that person.
And that's why they're great at it, but at the same time, there's a danger in it.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So, a good detective, just like a good hunter has to know where his prey sleeps, where he
There you
eats,
go.
where the warden hole is.
Hey,
A
man,
good
that strong,
detective
man.
has to be able to do that. That's why the guy that was I was locked up with when he said, well, who do you send and catch a serial killer? You send a
Yeah.
killer. Not necessarily a guy that's been out there killing people, but a guy who has put himself in a mindset so
Oh,
that
yeah,
exactly.
You
Right.
gotta become
So-
that person, man.
Right, so you can understand, okay, how do I catch them,
Thank you.
whatever, exactly.
Like, you know,
And right, but again, it's something you gotta watch. That's not you want to be living in your mind every day.
damn right.
You know what I'm saying?
So,
So I get what you're saying on that.
but you know who fascinated me the most on that show?
Who?
The young lady that didn't do nothing but sit at the office and play on the computer.
Hmm.
Hey man, and then to find out that she was actually a criminal, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
She was actually a criminal as a computer criminal, to where she was a scammer. To the fact that, well, she was so good at scamming, they hired her. The government hired her.
That's how Bank of America do. They
And
hire.
put her as an FBI
Yeah.
assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl, man, was so, man, this girl can, man, she, man, to see how she adapted to them, and she became one of them, man.
I mean, I can't. You're right. It's something that if you're good at your craft, let me tell you, there's a lot of people that I had to employ. They may not actually came on the sheriff's office, but we needed their help. Good example, my undercover guys needed hidden compartments in their car,
Yeah.
right? We had to go hire a guy that was making hidden compartments for drug
But,
dealers.
thank you.
Right.
Who
To show
better
us
to
how to do it. Right,
Who
right.
better to do it?
Exactly. You know, my SWAT team, you know, you could send someone to a police sniper school, but I mean, okay, well, hell, they ain't ever killed nobody. You know, maybe they ran over a squirrel or something, but they ain't,
Yeah.
whatever.
Thank you.
I had to hire a real sniper from the military that had 70 confirmed kills to get my team up to the point where they could be,
They gotta
so
be
we
on
could
the
rescue,
ball.
so we
That's
could
right.
rescue a hostage, not because we
Gotta
want
be
to
on
kill
the ball,
people,
man.
but we need people who, okay, if someone's taken hostage, I know they can actually go in there and rescue
Gotta be done.
somebody
That's right.
and don't hit the hostage, but hit the hostage taker. And here's a man that's actually done that. So, I mean, that's very necessary, you know, if we're going to protect people, that's what we have to do.
Gotta be
The
trained
guys I was
professional.
locked up with, they used to always tease me. They said, man, you be a hell of a sheriff now after what we taught you.
Thank you.
Because I got a chance to see
That's
what
why I
they
asked
were
you that
doing.
question.
Exactly,
That's why.
exactly.
That's why
So
you gonna
know-
get it.
Hey, man,
Exactly, so.
You know, hey, man, man, you done
Just
learned the
gotta
best of
just-
both worlds, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
you done learned the best of both worlds, man.
I agree, and I hate to say it, but my instructors in federal prison were more impressive than my instructors at the police
At the
academy. Those are some. Let me tell you something. I'm not. Man, one day I walk in and there's 4 guys playing chess. You know, there's
Oh,
32 pieces on the board. Now there's 64 pieces. This guy got 60, he got 60, whatever, and they're playing what they call 4-dimensional chess. And I stopped and I looked, and I was like, "What are y'all doing?"
Yeah.
I thought they were making it up. I thought it was something they made.
Chess.
Never heard of it, never seen it, and
Did you learn some of them damn moves?
never seen nothing like it. Never seen nothing like it. You can play teams or you can play cutthroat. Everyone's
you
for
go.
themselves.
4
And
or
I mean,
5
now
moves
you
is
gotta
over.
you gotta watch angles I never
There
even
you
thought
go.
of watching. It was one of the most fascinating things. And I'm like, you mean to tell me I had to come here? I didn't even know it exists.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So there's some guys there. They some high level dudes. And you know, the fact.
Man, 3 moves had your ass checkmated.
Man, I thought I knew how to play chess until I got there. Right. I had to, like, okay, Sifu, your kung fu is better than mine.
Yeah.
Right. Teach me. So, I mean, those some bad dudes. And like I said in the book, they became my chess instructors.
You should have brought us. We need autograph books.
Done.
Then you gotta get us some books.
No, it's done.
We'll pay.
I got it in the car now.
Support.
Done.
Yeah, but hey man,
That's a done deal. We're going to take care of that now.
it was a joy, man.
No, the joy is mine. The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
You.
It's so
Okay.
good to meet the
you.
lovely Shanita.
Thank you.
I'm so glad
Good
to
to
see
meet
you.
you as
man.
well.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm really emotional right now, man, because I know how
It was
we met.
Oh man,
You know
thanks.
what I'm saying? And like I say, to see you go through what you went through, man, and knowing that I have actually talked to you about that situation. You feel what I'm saying? I have told them the stories, but I know, me telling them personal story, oh yeah, okay, right, you talk to Victor Hill, you and Victor Hill cool on this.
Right.
No. So for you to actually, for God to put you in this light with us, man, you know what I'm saying? That really make me feel some kind of way, bro.
Thank you,
what I'm
man.
saying?
The
Because
blessed
I
is
know
mine. Thank you.
we haven't seen each other in some years.
Years.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
then like this. This
You
is
know,
awesome, man.
Yeah, so hey,
Awesome.
man, my brother,
Thank
man,
you.
Strength and honor,
back
brother.
home, boy.
Strength and honor.
Back home,
That's
man.
right. Yes,
Back
sir.
home,
Yes,
we
sir.
Try to make something happen, man.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna get our prayer in,
That's
Sure.
and we're gonna let church out, as Vic say. And we're gonna try to enjoy this weekend, man. We got a long weekend.
Yes.
Brother, what you doing for the holiday?
You know what? Just working on this campaign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hey, man, you know where I'm at if you need me, dog.
I appreciate you,
All
man.
right.
All right.
So we're gonna end this thing with a prayer, and then we're gonna take it on home.
Yep.
All right, and everybody bow your heads. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day, Lord, our daily bread. And forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Father, we want you to bless our brother Vic on his journey to become a congressman. We want you to keep him wrapped and close to your bosom, to make him succeed into everything that you have in store for him. I want you to go with everybody in this room, everybody in this building, everybody in the world to see us reach greatness.
Amen.
And control our destiny. We are our own destiny controllers. And God, when you get through with us serving you, we want you to give us a resting place in your kingdom where we can dwell forever, eternally. Let everybody say amen.
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 All right.
Thank you.
This is Big Jeff
And this is Shanita.
with our special guest, Mr. Victor Hill. And we are coming to you live from No Days Off Production with the #1 show in the land.
Nothing but the truth.
And
we out.
Love it. Love it. Man, I'm gonna get them books for you
What's your
right
name?
now.
Yeah, but
And first of all, let me make sure I got my number.
yeah.
What's your name?
I'm gonna give y'all both my
Welcome to
numbers.
the congressional.